On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will finally put their top live-action Star Wars moments to bed with a recap of the sequel trilogy's best scenes. Before that, though, they'll talk about Matt's travels out beyond the Dune Sea, some ISS, and Daisy Ridley quotes about her new Star Wars project. Of course, the show will end with the Question of the Week segment and the latest round of Top 5 Star Wars fan honest features. Punch it, Chewie.
Gotta get both of them on the phone at the same time.
Hey, now, everybody! Welcome back to the Star Wars Time Show. Woohoo! Oh my goodness, I do not have my helmet on. Sorry about that, people. If your eyes feeling like they're burning, that's my bad. Sometimes my forehead these days acts as a reflector. All right, my wife loves it. Gives her a tan in all directions when we're at the beach. It just kind of radiates off the top of my dome. But hey, how's it going, everybody? Got the wrong screen pulled up. Let me fix that. Because we want to talk about these guys first for a little bit. Before we get into our topics of the day, you know how we do over here. We usually have a little round of pop culture talk to get you caught up on what Nick and Matt have been doing over the past week. Be it something lame, something cool, something you should maybe dive into. You know, we don't have new Star Wars this week, Nick. No Bad Batch to break down. So we are returning to our top live-action Star Wars moments that we started, which seems like way back in 2022. We're going to wrap it today with part 4, our top sequel trilogy moments. And yes, people, it was more than just the credits rolling. We have 16 of them, 15, I can't count, who knows. But we got them up there. We're going to talk about something Daisy Ridley's been saying about the new movie. What does it mean? Does she know anything? Is it ever going to happen? Who knows? But of course, before we get there, it's pop culture talk. All right, Nick. So, you know, last week I kind of teased that I was going to link up with the dudes over at Beyond the Dune Sea. All right, our buddy Press Pause Photography, aka Connor, he filled in for you a few weeks ago. You know, they started a little project back during the Ahsoka run, and you know, it's turned into quite the little program. They built a nice little audience, and you know, it's just. They're the one other Star Wars fan channel that I can actually give some attention to and not feel like I want to, you know, slit my throat. I mean, that's just how it goes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I had them on and we were talking and we were talking about, you know, doing future link ups, trying to get young Nick in there because I think the four of us would have a hell of a time. You know, Nick's a little more stable like those two. I'm the one that kind of brings some of the screw loose mentality to the conversation. But I think Nick would have a good time talking to them. He's kind of in their age range, especially Seth. Seth, to me, man, he's just like he's like a modern day hippie. You know what I mean?
How old are they?
Connor, I don't believe is even in his 30s yet. I think Seth is probably right around you, 30. What are you, 34, 33, something like that?
I turned 36 this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, look at young Nick. He's when he hits 40. If we're still doing this, I might have to change the nickname. You never know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, they're in your generation. Although you know you're not quite the prequel Kool-Aid drinker as most kids your age, which I do appreciate. You know, we're not here to poop on the prequels. Hopefully, those of you that tuned into Beyond the Dune Sea's Hot Takes episode last Friday that I was on, yeah, you could see that we can have some fun even if we don't agree on Star Wars. I'd actually say it's the model of how Star Wars fans should behave, especially when you have very drastic opinions, especially on hot take type of material. I mean, that was the point of the program, was to say some pretty, you know, wild shit. I mean, one of mine that I dropped, Nick, is it, and I know you would agree with me, so it's not even a hot take on this show, but George Lucas is a subpar director. You know, that's the type of stuff.
Like, yeah.
That's the type of stuff we were talking about. And then
that's like a very lukewarm take. So
well,
much
well,
so that
I don't know, man. Over
even,
there, I took it on the chin a little bit. That was borderline sacrilegious. So, but a good one for me that got me going, and they just dropped a clip of it today. So make sure to check out at Beyond Dune C on YouTube. I'm such a great cross promoter, by the way. I put out all these clips with Press Pods. I don't think he shared a single one. The moment they shared the Beyond Dune C with yours truly, because I'm such a narcissist and I love to see myself, I shared it like 900 times. But anyways, he got me good because one of his hot takes, and it was perfect for us because we just did our special topic on this, Nick. He said, and I still can't believe he said this out loud with a straight face, Seth said that the special edition edits are great.
Well, I mean, that it's not surprising given that like they're coming from a generation that's like the prequel generation, and the prequel generation is built around what can we do with special effects, and all that the special editions are is what is George just saying, well, what can I do with special effects? And it's just like it's an appreciation for a different type of filmmaking, you know? Yeah. Like I think that the people over there, like Seth and Connor, are much more appreciative of like what you can do with a computer, and we're a little bit more appreciative of what you can do with a pen and paper, like the writing and the storytelling and everything like that.
I do think you're on to something, especially when it comes to the changes to Return the Jedi. You know me, my heels are dug in on Ewok Celebration, aka Yubnub. I still contend that that's the song to go with. But what I got over there, Nick, from them was like, well, it didn't really feel like an ending to a trilogy. It felt like an ending to the movie. That's why we like the crappy victory celebration that gives us the bootleg late 90s CGI tour of the Star Wars galaxy showing them celebrate. I'm like, all right, I guess. But in 1983, when there were no prequels and you didn't know about Naboo and all this other crap, Ewok Celebration was perfect. Beautiful. Yeah,
and I think that like it just like the ending at the end of ROTJ now just feels like it's very bland.
It doesn't seem natural like, either. Like you can tell it's like, oh, let me shoehorn this stuff in.
And it's also like, well, let me show these planets that none of these characters have been to. Like, let me show you, you know, like here's Naboo. Nobody in these 3 movies has ever been to Naboo, or you know, and it was more of a reaction to what
was
Star Wars, like what Star Wars had become,
right?
Than it was an appreciation for the movie that was, you know, and I think that. And it makes even less sense now, given the fact that there are now sequels. So you do a closeout at the end of ROTJ that is supposed to be like this wrapping up the universe type of thing.
And the day later, Operation Cinder kicks off.
Yeah, and then now we have, you know, 3 movies that happen after it. We have a whole, you know, roster of TV shows that happen after it. So like, yeah, at the time that George made the decision to put that in, he felt like, oh, it's a bow. But realistically, what happened is like it could never be a bow, because if that was the case, then Star Wars had no history beyond Episode 6, and some people would prefer it that way. But that's just not how it is.
So, pretty much anyone that answered our question of the week, Nick, you're right.
Yeah. So now what has happened is there's a bow on 6, but then you have fucking 150 hours of content after that. That's like, okay, well, let me take this bow off and then open this up because we have more shit to tell.
Yeah, they're like, just kidding. The victory celebration wasn't true victory after all. I mean, my mom grabbed me the Star Wars Timelines coffee table book for Christmas. Actually kind of cool. You know, it's not like a straight read. It's not just words and shit. You know, there's like little timelines you can follow. Charlie kind of likes me to read it to her every once in a while when mom's not reading Harry Potter. But according to that book, 5 ABY, which I don't even think they use anymore, right? They don't use the ABY or the BBY or before the Battle of Yavin. We don't use those.
I don't know what they use.
Either way, and this was kind of news to me, but Kylo was essentially born 5 ABY, so right when Battle of Jakku took place and the New Republic actually achieved true victory, which was about a year or so after Battle of Endor or whatnot. So I guess for some reason I didn't put young Ben being born that close to the end of Jedi for us, or the 5 ABY for them. So anyways, listen, we're not here to like sit here and blow smoke about the prequels. I just wanted to highlight the conversation we had over there. It was a good time. Make sure to check it out. I know more people watch their stuff than ours, which I get. I'm figuring it out. It's not so much what we're putting out, it's just who we're putting it out to. And as I explained to young Nick, we've attracted an older Star Wars audience that probably isn't too keen on social media verticals and 2.5 hour live streams on YouTube. So I get it. But it was nice to be over there and have a very active fan base and supportive fan base. And we do too. Like we've got our core. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're in here right now. Bat, Tones, Bango, League, JOD, Mando Pirate, Be Mad when he shows up. But it was nice. It was nice over there. So check them out. Check out my hot takes. It's out there now. I got about 377 views on it. People teeing off on me in the comments as expected because, the prequel generation, as much as they sit there and feel like, everyone makes fun of us, they're actually probably the most toxic of fan bases. And their leader, I'm not saying Beyond the Dune Sea, but a lot of prequel bros gravitate towards Star Wars theory, who at this point is pretty much nothing but a clickbait dump at this point in time. Like to the point, Nick, where he's having like women psychologists come on and explain why women don't really like Star Wars. So that's the type of shit he has mixed himself up with. So have fun with that. Just remember us guys, us old people, we got 2 trilogies we didn't necessarily agree with. You motherfuckers, you're upset about the sequel trilogy. We've had to deal with the trauma of 2 trilogies now that didn't quite click with what our Star Wars fan brains were expecting. So just think about that sometimes when you want to kick the old man screaming at clouds. All right? Just think about that. Okay. All right, Nick, before we get into Star Wars stuff, one quick thing here. You know me, I love going to movies, like letting people know if they should be wasting their time on a flick. We got a sci-fi movie that opened last week called ISS, International Space Station. The war on Earth will be decided in space. Honestly, dude, I didn't even know it was coming out. I tend to look at AMC on Thursdays to see, anything new coming out tomorrow. If it looks interesting, I'll go check it out. I've hit or missed on that sometimes. My last hit was at Godzilla -1 or whatever. That is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard.
Oh my goodness, dude! It's the best Godzilla I've ever seen. The whole thing's in fucking Japanese. Like it's just fantastic. So anyways, last week I'm going through, I was like, The Beekeeper, that's been out a while, whatever. I'll check him out. So, I like Statham. I like beat 'em up movies. But you know me, Star Wars nut, obviously always going to draw towards sci-fi or fantasy. So I see ISS, check it out. I'm like, you know what? I could get behind this. I mean, the premise is essentially just as 2 Americans arrive on the ISS to join 1 other American and 3 Russians, World War III essentially kicks off on the surface between America and Russia. And their respective governments call up and kind of lay down a charge to their astronauts, and the tension ensues. So I really enjoyed it. For some reason, it's not reviewing so well. If you all buy into that type of stuff, like if you're someone that just looks at aggregators, you're like, fuck it, it's at a 63. It's not worth my time. But I can tell you, it's tight, like an hour 30 tops. So I loved it right there. Right, Nick? We've been bitching about movies now, especially ones we like, are usually going to be 2 hours plus. So anytime I can get a 140, 130, it's like, woo, yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of tense the entire time. So I feel like it kind of did its thing for me. I would have liked the ending to be a little more concise and clear, but I kind of also appreciate the open choice they went with. I'm not saying there's going to be a sequel or anything, although I think it'd be very interesting to kind of pick up with this if Russia and America decide to start hitting the buttons. But it was a good film, good little science fiction film. It's not all, CG and crazy superhero stuff. It's very rooted in space station science, if that's a thing. So I was a fan. I would recommend checking it out in theaters if it manages to stay in theaters for more than a few weeks, which it probably won't, because as we know now, I think Aquaman has just hit home release after less than a month and a half. Yeah,
that came out.
Yeah, dude, Aquaman 2 came out in December. I took the kids. She enjoyed it. I was like, eesh. But it's already out on home view. Nick, Wonka's out on home view, but I still think you should go see that at theaters if you can.
Yeah.
And I think Beekeeper just hit home release this week as well. So lots of fun stuff to check out there if you're into the not real life type of things like myself.
I guess I have one update. It's not really a pop culture update, but it is something to talk about for a hot second here. I'm getting a new Star Wars tattoo on Sunday.
Oh, look at this. Is this something you've been planning, or is this just like, fuck it, I'm doing it?
I mean, there's this place in Austin that does stick and poke tattoos, where it's like old style tattoos, where it's like they have like a stick with the sharpened edges and they hit it and they.
So are you going for a Star Wars tattoo in that style then? Like fairly simple, but it's going to look ancient almost?
I don't know if it'll look ancient. It'll be a tattoo that's primarily line work, and what I chose was actually very good for line work. It's the Death Star with a Star Destroyer like next to it. So they're both geometric shapes, which are much easier for tattoos in that style to be done. It's only going to be line work. It's not going to be shaded, and it's going to be like right on my left forearm. So that'll be a fun experience. I think that I had to book like a 3-hour session.
What style of tattoo is it then? Do they call it old school, new school? I mean, this is like, you would kind of have to look up stick and poke tattoos. Got ya.
But it's like stick and poke tattoos are very minimalist. They're typically like only line work. So like think of like line work details that you can get in without having to like fill in color or anything like that.
To me, it sounds like old school, but you don't color it, because old school is all about your line work. Like you got to have the most clear lines, straight lines, thick lines, beautiful lines, but they'll usually add a little shading to it.
Yeah, I mean, like typically you probably won't even see like. I'll shoot this over to you, and this will give you an idea. It is like what you could consider like American traditional, I guess, would be like a way to put it. Oh,
I'm sorry. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Okay.
I just sent you a link, Matt. This is the girl that's going to do it, and if you look at the work that she's done with just stick and poke tattoos, it's pretty crazy.
All right, hold on. Let me. I'm going to pull this up on the stream here, because I was just looking at like a stick and poke guide.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. There she is. Nick's gonna get the Texas toad next.
Yeah. So it would be considered like an American traditional style of tattoo art that just doesn't have any color added into it, and there'll be no fill. It'll almost just be like the geometric shapes, obviously with enough detail within the design to like make it super clear. Like, this is a Death Star, this is a Star Destroyer. And it was like by commission only, so I had to like pitch my idea to her, and like she responded. She's like, "Yeah, I'm totally into it."
Did you get nervous? Like that would get me all nervous. Oh. Like, what's going to happen if this lady literally turns down my business? What does that say about me? What that probably says is this lady doesn't want to do a Star Wars tattoo.
But I mean, like, it was, it's really cool. Taylor's gotten a stick and poke tattoo done before, and it was a cool experience at the same place. So, yeah, I mean, my last tattoo was actually another Star Wars. It was actually my my Mandalorian, my Mythosaur tattoo that I got at the Star Wars celebration in Chicago when we went. So yeah, now my next one will be a stick and poke
Yeah, I'm jealous,
style.
man. I'm jealous of all you mothers out there that are able to pull the trigger and actually be happy with art and all that stuff. I always have wanted them. I'd love to have a full, like, almost Yakuza tit arm sleeve. I just, anytime you're like, oh yeah, what would you like? Star Wars, like, it's Star Wars that other people already have, but I don't want what other people already have. I mean, you know the exact tattoo I would get today. It's the fucking interns Vader he got at Celebration.
Yeah,
it's the coolest Vader I've ever seen, and you should see his arm now. I mean, he got a nice Leia on there. I mean, he's fully sleeved now. Like he's full on hillbilly, but it looks good.
Like I said before, man, you got to get one of these guys in the community, like, you know, somebody who's like
I had Cody.
Like
I had Cody Tweedy. I don't think they listen anymore because, you know, that's just par for the Star Wars time show. People love us, and then after a while, they're just like, "Fuck, why am I wasting my time on this shit?"
Yeah, like one of those, like not even a tattoo artist. Like if you could get like if you could give an idea to Super Scoundrel to Devin, and then he makes it in you know, Illustrator or whatever vector tool that he would use for it, and then you bring that to a tattoo artist and be like, I want this.
Yeah, no. Remember, he told us he doesn't draw; he just traces.
No, yeah, I know.
We're like, hey, Devin, help us out for Scoundrels. He's like, no, yeah. I
but
trace.
If you told him,
idiots.
like, I want Darth Vader's head and I want fucking blood running down his face and all that, he could do that for sure.
Yeah, I obviously would want a Vader. I mean, that's a must at this point in time. Probably battle damage Vader. I mean, I love that look with the, you know, the Anakin eye popping out and the scars.
See, dude, that's something right there. That's like a good start.
I'll just get one, so I don't have to think about it. It'll just be huge. It'll almost look like the Superman symbol on my chest.
That's right.
I'll just walk around with a big Darth Vader face right in the middle of my stomach. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, dude. Can't wait to see. So it'll all be done after this weekend, right? You don't have to go back all right.
It should be done.
Okay. Well,
on the same day.
We have a show and tell segment planned for next week. Just make sure it's somewhere we can see. We know you like to put them in those saucy locations.
Yeah. No, it's not going to be on my butt cheek. My other butt cheek.
It's not for Taylor only, right?
No. I think it's more than likely going to be on my left forearm, somewhere between where my watch, like my wrist, like my watch cuts off, and then down up to where my elbow is. It won't be that full size, but.
So are you going to work on a sleeve then at this point? Might as well, right?
I don't know. No? It's always kind of been like, you know, I have pieces of a sleeve already, and it's like, do I just fill in the rest of it at some point? But I haven't like fully decided on that yet. So I've just been doing like the piece by piece, and then if a sleeve forms out of that, then it does.
Be it. I know you should be like these crazy crackheads that sign up for Ink Master and they get no choice, and they could end up like, oh, today's tattoo your face day, and like, okay, dude, I guess I'm getting a free tattoo on my face.
I remember I used to watch that a lot, especially like the first like 5 or 6 seasons, and then like I saw one of them, and it was a Star Wars tattoo competition, and this girl Sarah Miller did a fucking killer Yoda.
She's awesome. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get tattooed by her because her work is amazing. There was somebody on that episode who got potentially the worst Star Wars tattoo I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, I just can't do it. I just like, there's no way I could sign up for this.
Dude, it's gotten, ever since that show's moved to Paramount Plus, the human canvases have gotten even sketchier. I do wonder if the producers just go down to, you know, like the homeless shelter or the crack house.
Yeah, just be like, look, free tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, they come in and they look like they're, you know, hitting some meth, might be missing some teeth, not just because they don't brush them. You know what I mean? I mean, it's and they're like, I want a devil, fucking a goat on my ribs in New School, and they're like, what?
Dude.
That's right. Hey, look at it. We got Sir Dork popping in here. SWT for life. That's right. And then Bango corrects him right away with SWTS for life. Star Wars Time Show. That's right. You got to highlight the
Dork
dot.
and Bango are just going back and forth with their Star Wars Time Show is the best show ever for life.
See how much fun you can have on the Star Wars Time Show live stream. Don't forget 5 p. Eastern Time. That's New York time for everyone else. On youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show, at least for the next few weeks. We'll still be on Tuesdays. But in the back of my head, I think we are going to make the full shift to Wednesdays, starting with Bad Batch and then probably keep it there. It's going to suck for me this semester because my work schedule is not built that way. But hell, I only got 14 more weeks. I can get through it, and then we're just going to stick with it. We tend to draw a bit more on Wednesday because I know there's a lot of toy photography shows on Tuesday. So that may help us out, but it's just going to stop us from having to shift the schedule every time Star Wars shows come out. Mm-hmm. Tones, it's good to see you, buddy. I know you got to take care of some stuff. We spoke your name last week. Glad to see you again. We love you. Hopefully everything's good to go. That's right, Sir Dork. I was wondering if you would have saw that. Matt, I'm getting out there. I'm trying, Nick. It's not easy for me to get out there and to tune other people's content because I think everyone should be looking at our content. But knowing Jared and his level of support over the years, I try to click on his stuff every once in a while and see what's going on. So he was interviewing a toy photographer over there. And I'm sure I was leaving comments that were all just like, oh, hey, look at me, because I'm that type of person. Like, I really am kind of a piece of shit on social media with all this stuff. I'm always like, oh, hey, but don't forget about Matt, right? Don't forget about me. I mean, what do you people think happened in my childhood that I ended up like this? I mean, is it the fact that I haven't talked to my dad very often in my adult life? I mean, we're going on like 2.5 years now of not talking or seeing each other. Clearly that's from other trauma early in my life. I don't know what it is, Nick, but I crave attention. I just want people to say they like me and I'm doing a good job. It's very...
If I didn't know how amazing your mom was, I would make a joke. It'd be like, yeah, it was because you were locked in a closet your whole childhood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
nobody
the other
paid
thing.
attention to you. But you have an incredible mother.
That's right. That's right. I mean, she got me this far. I don't know. Maybe we got to blame her too, because maybe she didn't love me enough, or at least the way I felt like I need to be, congratulated and like, oh my goodness, Matt, you are the second coming of Jesus and all that type of stuff. Like that's how I feel sometimes. I have told people, if you look it up, Matthew is essentially the equivalent of God. That's kind of what it means. It's the child of God.
He wrote one of the Bible books.
There you
His
go.
name's
Thank
in the
you.
Bible. A lot.
Thank you. This isn't about you, Matt. Suck it up. That's right, Banco. That's how I am, man. I got to make everything about me because I am a narcissistic scumbag. I'm even over there fighting with Beyond the Dune Sea commenters because they're making fun of me. I can't let it go. All right. Good times in pop culture talk. ISS. Nick is going old school. Let us know if it hurts more than the actual tool.
We will have that discussion for sure.
I'm assuming it's going to hurt a lot more, but I guess we'll see. Okay, so before we get into this week's special topic of our top sequel trilogy moments, we got a little quote from Daisy I want to run by Nick, see what he's thinking about it. I always like to kind of pick his brain on some of the buzzy Star Wars news coming out there. I'm trying to avoid the like, oh, this is shooting now, that's shooting now, this coming out. Like that stuff's just gotten so nonsensical. Who cares? All right, go to Bespin Bulletin for that type of content, right? They excel at that. They write about that shit all the time. We're trying to give it up. I wish I could give up my poopy mouth over here because I made it 2.5 hours over there, Nick, and the worst thing I said, and even then, Seth was like, ooh, wow, I think they'd let that on TV. I did say asshole. I did, but that was it. I think I might have said damn and hell. There was no shits, no fucks, no cocks, no tits, cunts, none of that stuff. I was almost going into the George Carlin bit right there. If anyone has never heard the George Carlin 7 dirty words bit, look it up right now.
That's a classic.
Listen to it. Then you'll understand why he was a god comedian. Okay, so Daisy, there she is, looking lovely. We all love Miss Ridley, or at least you should. She's a beautiful person and female, and she is our Rey Skywalker. But anyways, Nick, she's out there promoting a new flick, which I think I kind of want to check out. Something I Think About Dying, or Sometimes I Think About Dying, which, you know, it's kind of me. And that's pretty much every day I wake up, I'm like, hey, what would it be like if I was dead? So she's promoting this. And of course, when anyone that has ever worked on Star Wars is out promoting any project that isn't Star Wars, they're going to get asked about Star Wars. So this is coming from Variety. They kind of ask her, you know, obviously about the film, but then we get into, hey, you're reprising your role as Rey in a new Star Wars movie directed by Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, you know, the lady that lit a bunch of incels on fire a few weeks ago when she said, you know, I guess I get it. I brought this up with Connor, and his take surprised me a bit. You know, I know he's a man of God, so I just figured he's a little softer on this stuff. But no, he's like, hey, listen, what she said was kind of jacked up when you consider that Deborah Chow has been a woman directing in Star Wars and Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm like, okay, yeah. I guess I took it as like this lady's actually doing a movie and not a TV show, and that is a first. But who cares? I don't understand why people get worked up when women say stuff that they're confident. We've talked about before. It's not worth getting into. The world's going to end in about another year anyway, so who gives a shit?
Like technically, what they're asking Daisy here is like the first female filmmaker impacting the series, and like, yes, Deborah and Bryce have directed TV series, but like this is the first time that a woman will be behind the camera on a full-length feature film. Yeah.
So I don't
know, and I think that those are two very different things, considering that, you know, one of them is for a completely different, you know, like style of you know, creating than the other one is, and stuff. So I mean. Yeah, hey,
like I said, whatever. Some people were just you can guess who. You know, the Fox News is the Star Wars theories of the world. That this like, hey, fuck you, woman, you can't say this shit. You're an idiot. Woke. Who cares? Like if that, like I said, if that's the type of stuff you want to consume your life with, have fun. I mean, honestly, you've got nothing to live for if that is what consumes your mind, what other people are doing or saying. I'll never get it. I'm not even, you know, I guess I'm a confirmed Catholic Christian. I don't buy into that shit anymore. And I don't, and it's mostly coming from these type of people. What the fuck? All right. Anyway, so here's what Daisy has to say when asked about this. Hey, you're being Rey again, and you're going to be in there with Sharmeen. And she pretty much says, the short answer is, I don't know. That's essentially like, I don't know what's going to be like working with a female on Star Wars. How would I? Who gives a shit? She's a human, right? So she then goes into, I'm excited to do the job, but not because Sharmeen is a woman. Her documentaries are amazing. Her idea for the story is cool as shit. No spoilers, but she gave me a rundown in the entire story. If it weren't amazing, I would have been like, okay, call me in 5 years. But it's worthwhile. All right. She then goes into, they ask her like, hey, it's going to be weird. You're going to be making Star Wars without Boyega, Driver, and Isaac. And she goes, nah, it's not going to be weird because I don't know what is what or who is who in the new movie. So she's essentially saying like, they could still be there. So much has happened for me since the Skywalker saga. I feel like a grown-up now. When I first started, I was like 20. I was the youngest on set. It took me the first 2 Star Wars films to feel worthy of being there. Now I'm in my 30s. The whole thing feels quite different. I've been able to work with other filmmakers, and hopefully I've got better as a performer. So first thing, Nick, what do you think she's saying up there? I mean, blowing smoke, the story's amazing. Otherwise, she would have walked. I mean, is that kind of what she's saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of how everything is going to be with Star Wars now. I think that before it was, when you approached anybody for a Star Wars movie, they would be like, I'm going to do it because it's Star Wars. And now there's more discernment put into it. And I think that that's a good thing. I think that's how it should always be. Like, you should never sign on to something purely based off of the name factor. You should always base your decision off of the content of it and do you believe in it? You know, like obviously there are actors who do jobs for paychecks and, you know, stuff like that. But I think that what Daisy is saying here should be the stock standard way that any actor who has the ability to make this decision, because not all of them do. Like, there are actors out there who can't choose what they work in. They just have to take what's given to them. But Daisy's in a position to where she can make a decision based off of, not the paycheck, but the content. And I think that the way that she handled this was really good. And, her saying that it doesn't matter to her that Charmine is a woman is also how things should be handled. Like you shouldn't make your decision on if somebody's a woman or not. Right. It should be based off of, are they qualified to do this, and have they proven to me that they can make something that's truly special and worth my time? So I think that what she said here is just kind of like a stock standard way that any actor in her position should approach a project. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. We got your comment up there. I'm going to read it. I kind of dig it. And it hopefully it makes sense to people, because I do think there's a large part of the fandom now that they've just decided anything Disney touches sucks. They're never going to give it the time of day. Even if they do watch it, they're going in with a lens of hate. So they're never really going to appreciate it. So what Travis Mitchell's saying on here in the stream, one of the most educated conversations I've had about the sequels was with my friend's little brother, who has no idea who Kathleen Kennedy is or how there wasn't a plan. He just loves the movies. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us as fans, especially people like myself, the true fanboys and girls out there, we get so wrapped up in everything. We follow every news bit. We follow every soundbite. We pay attention to the clickbaiters, even though Nick thinks we shouldn't, and he's right. I can't help myself. That's really what the Star Wars fandom is these days. It's who's putting out toxic shit. That's about it. That's what gets all the looks. So we try to highlight the toxicity and not try to be toxic ourselves. I do eventually want to get down to a recurring segment called Bad Star Wars Takes, where we highlight content from other just fans, comments, other channels. We'll probably, have to cover up names and shit, and just kind of like bad tweets on Kimmel. Just read the stuff and be like, this is what we're dealing with on a daily basis. I think it'd be fun.
I mean, it's gotten to a point for me and this is just how I view myself. Like I don't view myself as a part of the Star Wars fandom.
I was gonna say it's killed it for you, and it's been hard for me to watch over the years, because I'm telling every one of you motherfuckers, Nick was just as emphatic and passionate as I am right now, until I think it was around The Last Jedi is kind of where it started to do it for you, right?
And it was just like when the discourse online changed from, hey, we're all fans and we're excited about the same thing, and we're talking about how much we enjoy this property, to, well, now we're not talking about Star Wars. We're talking about the people who make it and why they suck, and this person should be killed or jailed or something. It's like when the discourse changes from like we're a community talking about the things that we like to
who we hate and should die.
Yeah, like we've changed now to where like everything has to be incendiary, and the most popular creators in a space are those who are poisoning it. Mm-hmm. It just becomes something that's not worth my time. And honestly, the Star Wars fandom hasn't been worth my time for quite a while, because most of it is purely based around nonsense and garbage and like what would be considered like, hot take territory, but aren't really hot takes. They're just people being mean to other people.
Right. Yeah. It's usually just being racist in some form or fashion.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm just not interested in that. Like, I follow the legitimate news stories. So like when something happens, I follow that and I read it for the information. But as for like me going out into community spaces or reading the Reddits or watching YouTube videos, I just have no interest, because there's no like the what's out there, is just not interesting to me. And I'm also not a person that like, I'm not an opinion based like intaker of content. Like and it's not just for Star Wars, it's for anything. Like I truly just don't like enjoy like content that's based around what other people's opinions on something are. Yeah, like that's what we do. Like that's what we do, and I'm glad that people that watch our show enjoy it, but like that's just not the type of content that I intake myself.
We're not idiots though. I mean, we look like idiots and sometimes we sound like idiots, but we don't put out vomit just to get clicks.
Yeah, I mean, like we like typically put thought behind what we're saying, and like we don't just say stuff to get people to like gasp or to like elicit a reaction, which is what
I mean. If I did that, every episode would be titled SWTS. Kathleen Kennedy fucks us again, part 50. Immediately our audience would quadruple in size. So it'd go from like 10 to 40 in a second. But
and
we ain't doing it.
And like, that's just not the type of discourse that I want to perpetuate, because that type of discourse is ultimately like what is ruining the fandom for a lot of people, and
I got you, man. I mean, it's like I said, like I've tried to tell people, like, go back and listen back in the day, like where Nick truly died with even Star Wars time. Because even in 18, we're like, yeah, let's start a site, let's do it. It was like a cacophony of shit in his life. It went like he was trying to get a house, lost his job, COVID lockdown, had to pay for the house, had to find a job, had to start a business. And, those COVID years and the fandom himself, he's just like, at this point, he's like, hey, dude, I'll show up on Tuesdays. I'm good. It's like, all right, that's fine. I'll kind of hold the SWTS mantle for us. But it's been rough watching what some of the fans have done to young Nick. Anyways, let's get into it. It's time to break down the top moments from the sequels. Yes, more than just the credits rolling, although I think I probably should have thrown that in there for the Rise of Skywalker. We actually just put out a video. I've been screwing around with CapCut, getting some tutelage from Connor over at Press Pause, trying to spice up our clips a little bit. Not so much because I think it's actually going to equal more views, because I know it's not. It's me. I like things to look a certain way. And when our feed is nothing but black bars and white text, it bothers me. So it's an OCD problem. And as I told Nick, I'm like, look, I'm trying to do this. By no means would I ever expect you to do it, because it is a complete waste of time. It adds about 10 to 15 minutes to creating the easy clips that we're paying an AI to do, but it makes me feel good about myself. You know what I mean? I actually am like, hey, look, there's clips from Star Wars now about the ones we're talking about. And I am motivated and I am inspired by Connor's work out there on Beyond the Dune Sea. And by no means, I'm not delusional. I know it's not going to get us any more views or followers. The algorithm has decided who we are and what we will be. And I'm slowly getting there. But it would be more fun to make this stuff and with a little more reaction from the machines and humans out there.
Yeah, I think that now I've just started like over the past couple of days, I'll just like throw up a meme. I'll throw up a Star Wars meme. I saw.
I'm like, what the hell? Nick must be drinking this weekend. You posted like 3 times over the weekend, and I'm going, well, yeah, well, shit. He may get us kicked off again. He's putting up fucking content from other sites. But hey, I'm mixing in Star Wars footage like 5,000 other creators do, and I'm sure I'll get banned for that, because in the end, I am a black cloud. And it was proven last Friday when I joined Beyond the Dune Sea for like their second live. Guess what? Technical difficulties ensued. I mean, it took probably 15 minutes for their show to start. Poor Connor was like me in the day. Nick, he's like, oh shit, it's not working. Blah, blah, blah. Click, click, do, boo, boo. What can we do? And luckily I'm an IT guy. I know how to troubleshoot. So we had some quasi like triple double mirroring of his screen and Skype just so I could hear Seth. The whole time I heard Connor in like a stereo, like, hello, hello, hello. Hey, Matt, what do you think about this, take. But we got there. So like I said, I show up, their entire tech setup just fucking melts.
Explodes.
Yay, Matt. Whoa, look at those sweaty pits today. Check that out. I'm a healthy fool. Do your pits sweat a lot still? Or have you figured that out?
Me, like, I'm not as sweaty, but I will say that it's hotter over here than usual. Especially in the end of January, and I am getting a little hot now. We haven't had to turn the air conditioning on in Austin.
Oh, you fucking dickhead! The air conditioning. I'm sitting here trying to keep my house at 65 degrees by not turning on the heat, so I don't have $400 electric bills throughout the winter. And it's like, man, had the windows open today. Might have to turn on the air. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like I'm not even obese anymore. I just leak. I think one thing is I stopped using aluminum-based deodorant for some reason because
I did too.
I sometimes listen to Howard and like some of his neuroses rub off on me. He's like, "Oh, I'll give you cancer." I'm like, "All right." And it does. Like I do remember when I use that shit, especially on white shirts. I'd be the guy that have like those yellow crusty stains. But ever since I got COVID, it's almost 2 years ago now. My armpits constantly leak and smell like onions. You know, like I'm just kicking off some killer BO anymore. But it's slightly embarrassing. Back in the day, before I became a little bit more extroverted, I would have been extremely embarrassed right now to have these pit stains, and now I'm just gladly airing them out for all 10 people to see. You guys like that? Smell-o-vision, scratch your screens. All right, man, let's get into it here. You know, as I was kind of putting the screens together, there was a few scenes I feel like I should have included. Maybe they'll come back up, or maybe I'll remember it. There's one someone put, maybe it's in the comments, so we'll reflect on it then. But we did. There's 16 here to go through, and 17 including the screen here. And I think they're good ones for the sequel trilogy. I will tease there is going to be one in here that is kind of tongue in cheek, but it is a memorable moment for it being kind of tongue in cheek. But for the most part, I think these are pretty pointed, on point, and do make sense if you're a Star Wars fan that can allow you to kind of appreciate Star Wars content, even though the internet tells you should not because Disney made it, or there's a female lead, or there's a black stormtrooper. All right, so here we go. Top sequel trilogy moments. Not really in any sort of order. Nick and I will do our top 5 at the end, but we are going to go chronological through the film. So we're obviously starting with TFA, Nick, and the first moment from TFA. It's a fun one. And when I was putting these slides together today, especially from the TFA section, it just kept reminding me, like, damn, that was a damn good Star Wars movie. Damn good. Like, it had everything you want in a Star Wars movie. It had the fantasy stuff with the wizards and the Skywalker clan. It had the buddy stuff with Finn and Poe. And then Rey, obviously. The new droids. You're getting some lore from Han. You get to see old Luke, old Leia. It was fucking great. But the first moment I'm going with, Nick, is the Finn and Poe breakout from the First Order cruiser. Yeah. I just, listen, like, it visually, it's a great moment. The moment they're breaking out and the tie's on its little gas hose and they have to get that there. You got the First Order troopers coming out with their Gatling gun. Finn and Poe had just met. They barely know each other, but you can already see they're starting to form a dynamic. Finn gets his name in this scene. We really do get to kind of see and appreciate Poe's piloting skills. You put him behind the yoke of any ship and he's going to tear it up. It was just fun. Like, it was just a fun Star Wars scene to me. It kind of, I don't want to go here because I think that another moment is more like this, but it felt like Luke and Han together, shooting down some motherfuckers, having a good time. Yeah.
It almost like, it reminds me of ESB. And the moment where they're going through the asteroid field, they're getting hit. Chewie's trying to fix stuff. Han's yelling like, "Oh, where's this? Where's this?
Yeah,
What's this?"
Everybody's chaos.
It's just chaos. And they're like, it reminded me of that, of like this frantic feeling of like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here fast. And if we don't get out of here, we're probably going to die. So it's just, and it established that relationship between Finn and Poe really well. And then we were like, okay, this is our, like, we're building the crew, kind of like you said, like we're starting to get these like relationship ties between these characters, and they're doing it in a way that's familiar, but is also unique to the situation that they're in. So yeah, I do think that this was a super
just, like you said, it establishes kind of who the characters are, how they get together. We had the passing of the jacket to Finn, which kind of stays with him all the way, through TLJ. It's a great way to kind of start their relationship. Hell, I mean, some people wanted to ship these two together after scenes like this. You know what I mean? I mean, there was a contingent of fans that wanted a Poe and Finn romance, not just a bromance, like full on, hey, let's play tummy sticks type of stuff. All right. Next top moment from sequel trilogy, coming from TFA, the best film of the sequels, not even close, is another chase. It's the Rey and Finn running through Jakku and jacking the hunk of junk, also known as the Millennium Falcon. So much like the opening scene, Nick, there, or our first top moment, the visuals were great. Like that chase, they're, running through the town, running through Unkar Plot's shipyard. Ray's got that great line the first time you hear it, like, we're not going to get into that piece of crap. We're going to go for this quad jump where it gets blown up. And then they have to settle on the Falcon. Obviously, you get a ton of nostalgia from that. But then the actual chase through Jakku, very unique, right? We don't get many ground level battles in Star Wars or dogfights. They're going through old wreckage of Imperial Star Destroyers from Operation Cinder and the Battle of Jakku. We kind of get to see the Finn and Rey dynamics start to grow and get stronger. We instantly realize, like, okay, this Rey is she's special. She's kind of like Luke, They just throw her behind something, she's going to figure it out. She's crafty, and just the chase itself was awesome. The maneuver they pull, the kind of that 0G flip, shoot 'em down action, just again felt very, very Star Wars correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was all highlighted too by the decision to keep most of, if not all of that set practical, especially when they were out in the desert there. I mean, it feels real, it feels lived in, and it feels like an authentic chase scene. Almost like we really hadn't had anything like that before. Like you said, like we've never had like a dogfight scene through
outside the New Hope is it really, and the quick opening, I guess, of Rots.
Yeah, I mean, but like having it in atmosphere, like the closest, I mean, I can't even really list something that's really close to how this scene played out, because it was so dynamic. It was a foot chase that turns into an in atmosphere dogfight. It was so well executed, and you're right, like it really gives you that feeling of Rey is somebody special, right as this scene is going on. Like she's a take charge type of person. She can handle herself behind the sticks of, an aircraft like the Falcon. It really does draw these comparisons to obviously to Luke Skywalker for her, and then having having Finn there and the relationship building that goes on between those two as well it was fantastic. And it really does, like this, this movie set itself up so well and followed through to its own ending, very well. And, I really do think that people out there are like, oh, well, how do you get 5 scenes from the sequels? I mean, you can get 5 scenes just from this movie. It's a really well-made Star Wars film.
Yeah, we're just talking about top moments. I have a note for a rainy day to do top emotional scenes. Now, that probably will be rough to rip from the sequels. I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 tops.
Yeah, it's like I got 2 probably.
But yeah, don't worry. We'll get there, and you sequel haters will probably be happy when we get there. But I do think there's at least 4 or 5 good moments in all 3 films, and that says a lot from someone like me, because I really do, Nick, at this point in time, The Rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars movie for me. It just... I can't accept what it did to the sequel trilogy, what it did to Palpatine, Vader. So, Return of the Jedi loosely, it's rough. But hey, we'll get there. I found some top moments. Don't worry. All right. So yeah, good one there. Still, like I said, like I told you, when I did my rewatch and I got the TFA, it's a weird experience now watching this movie, because you're watching, you're going, fuck, dude, it was so good. So many great little sticks were put into that fire.
Yeah.
And then, hey, and I'm not going to blame TLJ. I'm not. It was the middle movie. You had a whole movie to tie all this stuff together with a bow, and then JJ's like, you know what? I'm JJ. We're going to do what we wanted to. Screw you. We'll do some narrative gymnastics here with somehow and Ray Palpatine, clone babies, clone bastards. It's just, ugh. Okay, TFA's still good, right? Right.
Still good.
All right. Next moment coming from TFA. Got to give the First Order a little credit. But when Hux kind of does his Hitler speech, come on. I mean, we all at least can remember that, probably for verbatim, at least the imagery. And Nick, that's kind of the screens I pulled up. That's one of the reasons this scene stands out to me. The imagery itself is just beautiful. I mean, seeing that he's got all the First Order battalions lined up. He's up there screaming, like I said, doing his Zig Heil. And then you get the firing of the laser. The entire planet goes red on surface. And then you get the space shots of seeing, like, literally the Imperial Remnant, the First Order, carved out a large section of a planet and turned it into a super laser that it literally can shoot across the galaxy and take out an entire system of planets. Not just a planet, an entire system. So for the visuals and Hux's speech alone, I do count this as a top moment.
Yeah, I think that this is probably, I mean, and you know, it's unfortunate to say this, but like this is Domhnall Gleeson's like best scene in this whole trilogy. It puts him front and center. It really highlights his ability to like command like the screen. And like you said, what comes from it was pretty awesome to watch. I mean, like just in a visual perspective, like it was really awesome to see like this huge monstrosity of a weapon that can, like you said, you know, the Death Star could fire a laser down, blow up a planet. This thing can shoot a laser across the galaxy and blow up multiple planets. Like it was. Like
I guess really they were in the same system because I didn't see it hit hyperspace or anything. But yeah, I mean, you can see it. It travels from Ilum across the sky, even over Takodana, so Finn and everyone can see it. It's an amazing level of power that the First Order achieved. And hey, whatever. We're rerunning tropes from A New Hope, but who cares? Yeah. Who cares?
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it was Ilum should add a little bit of like, oh wow, that's even more jacked up. You're essentially taking the home of Kyber in the galaxy, and after you've already gutted it out, now you turn it into a weapon of death.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to me. All right.
Pretty cool stuff.
Sticking with TFA, we definitely had the most in TFA. There's no doubt about it. Shouldn't surprise anybody here. Up next. And this one, I mean, I don't want to tease when we do emotional, but I think this one will get there. We're talking about the bridge scene between father and son. Nick, I'll tell you what, the first time I saw this, it was amazing. Hearing Han for the first time, just, Ben! A father to his son. It's really the first time we heard someone reference Kylo as Ben. It wasn't necessary, it was kind of clear early on when Snoke's like, hey, you're this Han Solo guy and blah, blah, blah. You were kind of starting to connect the dots, but it wasn't until Han comes out and just, Ben! And he comes up to him. He's trying to reason with him. Kylo's kind of, fucking around, almost making it seem like, okay, yeah, my dad's getting through, but because I'm such a weak man, I'm getting the message mixed, and instead of actually hearing him, I'm letting this voice in my head tell me, no, to be strong in the dark side, I need to kill this guy. And he ultimately does it and thanks his dad for making it easy to kill him because he's a bitch. And then I think the most touching part, the heavy hitter, the gut punch, is when Han, after being betrayed and stabbed through the heart, still reaches up to caress his son's face.
Yeah.
Before he dies.
Yeah, I mean, this was, one of two moments in this film that like had an emotion. I had an emotional reaction to when I saw it in theaters, and like multiple times because I saw it. I think I saw TFA 5 times in theaters. I mean, it was one of those moments where it's like, okay, like we are now in a different, like we're in a different Star Wars universe now. Like we're in a different galaxy. Like one of the key components of the original trilogy is gone, and it's not gone as a means of like, oh, he died off screen, or he had a heart attack and died because of old age or something like that. Like he was killed by his son, who is now turned to the dark side. Like it sets up such good narrative. And it was so well executed from a visual standpoint and from an acting standpoint. I think that Adam and Harrison
it's amazing.
were on fire on that scene.
Don't forget Eunice as Chewie. Like Chewie's death scream at the end, just as emotional.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those moments that I was like, when I was in the theater and I was watching this, and I was like, we're fucking back, baby. Like it is.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of like, Nick, when I was going through this, I was trying to put myself, Matt, 2015 in the theater for all these movies. Like it's very easy with hindsight to poke holes in these things and make fun of them. But if you have the ability to take yourself back in time to when you were sitting there, I think you can be a little more honest with how you feel about a lot of these films. And we'll get into that with TLJ, because I will never forget my TLJ first watch experience. I was in Vegas with the intern. We just watched the Penguins game. We roll to the last screening of TLJ, obviously, on the meds, a little baked up, a little tooted up, feeling good. And the entire time I'm watching that movie, I'm having an experience. I mean, everything was hitting me. I was like, ooh, wow, ooh, ee. And I came out, I was like, damn, that was good. And then things started to percolate in, stunt buddies like, hey, dude, TLJ, I don't know, kind of prequel. Nixon like, hey, man, checked it out. I think I like it. I think it's like an 8. And even then I'm like, uh-oh, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I, had too many rips from the vape pen. I don't know. Am I losing do I not know what I'm watching? But I really had a fantastic time watching TLJ for the first time. And obviously we're not there yet. We'll get there. But as I said, a lot of these moments when I was picking them, I was trying to like, how did they make Matt feel the first time? And Nick nailed it. When I saw this Han scene, like the moment he yelled Ben, and then we get the murder, it's like, whoa, okay, all right. I can kind of see where things are going, or at least we all thought. And I loved it. I mean, it is beautiful. I mean, hell, even when I was teeing up this scene, I kind of had to choke the emotions back a little bit. Had to man it up, It is a great one there. I know some people, I think Tones like absolutely hates that they killed Han, but it's like, hey, dude, it was going to happen, or Harrison wasn't coming back, period. So this was what clinched the deal, not the millions of dollars. It was, JJ, you're going to kill this motherfucker, right? All right, I'm back.
Yeah, I think that it was also like, it was so pivotal for the character development of Kylo, just to see that he would go to that length for a cause that he feels is just, and like what he feels is the thing that he needs to do in his life to become, this truly powerful force. Like, you can't argue, like, of course it sucks to see one of the OGs die, and it does every time it happens. But it's unquestionable that like, that is a huge part of Kylo's character development, and was fully necessary for him to develop into, into what he is and could have been.
And that's why I like the direction Ryan took with it in TLJ. He essentially positioned it as Kylo was destroyed by doing that. Like it did the opposite for him than what he thought. He thought killing his dad, that'd be it. That's all he needed. He'd be Darth Vader. But Snoke says it. He's like, hey, pussy. Like, ever since you killed your dad, you're a mess. You got beat by a scavenger. You loser.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Continuing on, top moments from the sequel trilogy. We're still in The Force Awakens. Just recapped Han's death, a fantastic and emotional moment from the film. Next one is probably my top scene from all the sequels. I mean, to this day, I love it. It's got every ingredient you could ask for as a lifelong Star Wars fan to make you feel. And it does it every time. It's not as strong as the initial watch, but every time I see Rey reach out for the Skywalker family blade in the woods, in the snow, I get a little misty. All right.
Yeah.
Get a little moist in the eyes. And Nick, like I said, it's a perfect combination. You just had all that happen. Han just died. Kylo's out there going nuts, punching like, where Chewie shot him. Finn gives him a go and then gets his back sliced open. Rey gets knocked out. And just as you're sitting there, you kind of get that shot of the saber, just like from Empire Strikes Back in the Wampa Cave. You see Kylo reach out, and then you see it fly by, and it goes by him. He's like, what the hell? And she grabs it. And right as she's grabbing it, what kicks in? The Force theme. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what you say. I don't care who you are. If you don't get moved by the Force theme, you truly do not love Star Wars. It is not a part of your soul. That Force theme to me is Pavlovian. I hear it and I instantly start to crumble. It's the most beautiful theme in Star Wars. It's the most motivational. It brings back a wave of emotion every time I hear it. And I just love the way JJ used it. I love the way this scene is shot. Rey is almost surprised that she gets it, but as soon as she gets it, she's like, all right, let's go, motherfucker. You just killed you just killed Han and my dude. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, this was the moment that I upon like the first watch of TFA, like I was bought in pretty quickly because I really liked all of the elements that they were combining, and I liked everything that they were leading to. But it was this moment that was like, it's the clincher. Like, this is unquestionably a top Star Wars film for me, and I think it was because I think JJ and I think it's Chris Terrio is his writing partner. Like, they understood.
Well, this one was actually, I think Michael Arndt was the original writer, so he still gets credit for a bulk of it. I don't know if JJ brought Terrio in or not. I know he did on Tross, not sure on TFA.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, whoever wrote this scene in particular had a true understanding of how to make Star Wars fans connect with characters. Like, it was just such a well done scene, and like understanding, it's not even just the music of it, it's understanding the characters that are at play. You know, Kylo's whole thing is, that is my saber by birthright. Like, this is my family history that is rightfully mine. And why did it essentially choose you over me? And that's where his anger stems from for basically all of TLJ. Is like,
that blade is mine.
Yeah. And like the fact that they, like, the people who made this film knew what levers to pull and when to pull them and how to do it. Like, it was just, they just nailed it. They just nailed it at every turn. And I think that, like, this scene in particular, not only that, it's just like the pull and then the fight that ensues from it, because she gets pushed back. Like, he like comes at her hard and essentially is like, if you don't turn here, I'm going to kill you if you don't turn here. And she like escapes, like she gets away. She doesn't win, like I wouldn't call that a win for either side, but it was such a cool sequence of events, like coming out, he's hurt, he's hitting himself to like essentially enhance the pain.
Oh yeah.
To like
dark side fuel, man. Dark side fuel.
And just everything that comes from it, like you said, slamming her and knocking her out, cutting down Finn, the lightsaber pull all the way across, and then the fight that ensues from it. It was just like, it was essentially 5 to 8 minutes of unbroken, just like, this is fucking awesome, like the whole way through.
It was great. And the best part, and the other reason why TFA is so great, is because it employed the best formula for a Star Wars movie. And that's where you have action on the ground, action in the air, and the people with the, light up swords fighting. It was just, I don't know. It's a great moment. I think the only person on this planet that hates it is Mark Hamill. And I say that, as anyone ever heard, as he was doing the table read, and he's like, oh shit, I'm
not in this.
I'm not in this, but he once they got to this scene, they're like, ooh, they're in the woods and blah, 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 the young heroes, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, this is it. This is when Luke shows up, right? This is when Luke shows up, and he keeps flipping the pages. And it's not until the last shot of the film that Luke shows up. And Mark has been out there talking about that his disappointment that he was not the one to receive the hilt, but it was Rey.
Yeah. No, I think that, like, from his perspective, if, like, with hindsight, if I'm Mark Hamill, I'm like, I got fucked out of the best movie in this whole trilogy. Like,
yeah,
I got
They're like, hey Mark, don't worry, you got movie 2, and eventually he's like, all right, I can deal. I'll take the middle movie, and then you have the documentary out there that Connor and I brought up, and it is kind of rough. I need to watch it again, but I remember it's rough on Mark, but it's literally called like The Director and the Jedi, and the crux of the documentary is Ryan trying to deal with Mark's complete and utter disappointment in the portrayal of Luke Skywalker.
Which is a justified feeling from him. But like, there's a couple of things here. JJ had said in interviews after TFA that like they tried to bring Luke in earlier. Like they tried to bring him in multiple parts of this film.
But it's the conundrum we keep bringing up in the Mandoverse, right?
Exactly. Like as soon as he comes in, it's the Luke show.
Yeah.
And it's hard to handle that in a film especially in a first film where you're trying to establish the new leads. Like you're trying to establish these 3 characters and then also where the world sits. And if you bring in Luke Skywalker, then everybody's like, oh, Luke Skywalker? Like, it's just, you lose the ability to tell the other people's story because of his power on screen. And, it is unfortunate that he didn't come in this film until the fucking very end. But I think that without him, it is the one film that highlights all 3 of the main characters so well. Like it highlights Finn and his struggle and what he's trying to achieve. It highlights what Poe's, journey is going to look like from legs on the ground to leader. And then it highlights like who Rey could be and what her journey is going to be and what she may turn into in the future. And I do think that if I was Mark, I'd be like, fuck, man, why couldn't I get in on this?
Yeah. Listen, a lot of his complaints made sense. I don't hate TLJ. I do think Luke would have banished himself. As I've said a million times, and I can't believe I'm saying again, I don't think he would be a dickhead. That's the only thing I didn't agree with Ryan's thoughts there. Everything else made sense. Being a jerk to all these people, especially Chew-ass Baca, like, come on, man. Luke Skywalker's not a dick. If anything, I could see him giving up because that's what he knows. That's what his masters do. But being a jerk, that's not Luke Skywalker.
His problem was always that he cared too much, not that he didn't care enough. And like, it felt like that is how he was portrayed in TLJ, was that he just didn't care anymore. And that was never his situation. Like when we were going, like in ESB, when he's on Dagobah and he's training and he sees all of these, premonitions in the Force, like it wasn't that he didn't care. It was that he cared too much, so much so that he was like, fuck this training that I'm doing with the Grand Master of the Grand Republic Jedi Order. I got to go save my friends. It wasn't that, they'll be fine. They don't need me. Fuck those people. Like, I got to get my Jedi on. Like,
yeah,
it was a fundamental misunderstanding of the character and where the character's like emotions lied.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I still contend TLJ is not a garbage film. Okay. Well, you might think we're done with TFA, but I actually, we were just talking about the guy. And like I said earlier, you go back, you kind of put your little self in that seat back in 2015. How did these scenes first resonate with you? I'll tell you right now, Rey's island journey, walking up those steps, seeing the master there gazing out over the cliffside, and then her very emotionally handing over the saber. Like, dude, I just went through some shit to find you, to help save us, and deliver your saber back to you. I thought it was a great ending. I know Mark did not, but I love this moment. The whole march up the cliff, seeing him, turning around, presenting it. You can tell she's touched. She's feeling something. And then Mark turns around also kind of like, okay, all right, well, hey, you made it. I guess I got to deal with you. Now, unfortunately, we kind of pick up with some nonsense right after this in TLJ, but this moment here, the way it ends, fantastic.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. I think it, like, there was so much speculation that, we had, fucking multiple shows just talking about
we had 2 years to kick the tires on this. Like, hey, what happened right after? And did they start training? Remember, we were like, oh, maybe the Knights of Ren find them, and that's why they have to leave and rejoin the Resistance. We had so many great ideas. Rey is, actually a secret spawn of Han and Leia that they've kept hidden. Like, come on, we had it, but headcanon and shit.
yeah. So, yeah,
headcanon.
I really do think that from start to end, TFA is in the top 4 or 5 of all Star Wars films.
I was just going to say, opinion. No, me too. No, well, it's everyone's opinion then, because if I agree with it, it's right. I was going to say it's top 4 or 5, 100%. I just don't know if I'm going to put it in front of the Phantom Menace or not.
Yeah. Okay. For you, I could see that.
Yeah, I know you. I know you had no problem. You're sliding it right in at 4, I bet. So that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, man, friends. Sorry, Nick.
It. No, yeah. And I think you can go back to shows that we had right after this movie. I was like, this may be my favorite Star Wars movie for the time being. Like straight up, number 1. Right after that film came out, it re-energized me. It gave me faith that the people who were, again, in hindsight, maybe not the best thing to think, but it gave me faith that the people who are in charge of this now knew what they were doing, and they really understood how to bring Star Wars back to the theater and in front of millions of people in a meaningful way. And it was really I truly believe that they knocked it out the park, that it was a home run, that this is like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes type of movie. And, I still think that today.
Felt the same way. Because I talked about before, I essentially imposed a self-boycott on Star Wars after Revenge of the Sith. I was just done, okay? So you prequel people, before you start going crazy, think about how you feel about the sequels. If you have the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, which a lot of humans don't have these days, try it, okay? I was done with Star Wars. Highly disappointed. I was like, no, I'm not. I didn't watch the movies, nothing. The only thing I started getting into was the Clone Wars 3 years later in 2008. I was like, all right, it's been about 3 years. It's animation. I'll try it out, even though it's the prequels. I'll try it out. And lo and behold, I did enjoy that. But it was not until this film that I started watching the Star Wars movies again. And just like Nick said, when I watched it, it was a feeling, because you got to understand, us older OT fans, a little bit of PTSD from the prequels. A little bit. Clearly, I still suffer from a fair amount. So I was going in like Nick, low expectations. Like, hey, I just know what I went through in these past 3 movies. And even though I went to each one multiple times and I always had high hopes and I tried to stay positive, it didn't hit for me. Didn't resonate. And then we get TFA and you're going in, you're like, okay, all right. The opening, okay. Oh, BB-8 and digging that. All right, Rey, like her music, scavenging. She's got an AT-AT for her house. This is cool. And then obviously Kylo looks like a badass stopping lasers with the Force. We never saw that before. And it was kind of a hallelujah. It was like, thank you. Thank you, Disney. Thanks, George, for selling it. We're back, baby. I can't wait. And then Nick and I, let's start a podcast. We love Star Wars again. Blah, blah, blah. Star Wars, TFA. Ooh, TLJ's coming out. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And then 2017 rolls around and literally the fandom has never been the same. Ever. Yeah. And from that day, young Nick has slowly, as he explained earlier, kind of just removing himself from the trenches. And I really can't blame him. All right. Well, we've been talking about it. It's time to get into the top moments from the sequel trilogy, this time coming from the TLJ, The Last Jedi. I don't care what anyone says. I think The Last Jedi has a fantastic opening. The entire sequence from Poe busting balls and making Hux look like a buffoon to his failed bombing run mission to Rose Tico's sister Paige saving the day in that very tense moment on her goofy-looking bomber, dropping the bombs on that dreadnought. The first time I saw that, the entire time, dude, I was clutching my seat. Like, yo, all right, I love this tension. This is fantastic. I love how it was shot, the music, the slow-mo. I still don't know how she caught the remote. It just, the physics there don't work, but who cares? It's a movie and it's not real. But I don't know. I really love this opening. It kind of established, Poe's arrogance, but also his skill and his ability to kind of get people to follow him. It set up the dynamic between him and the general. I don't know. I loved it. I love the tension it provided right from the start.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that scene it did such a good job of just keeping you on the edge of your seat for the entire time. Like it was like action, suspense that really kind of, it harkens back to, the Death Star attacks and stuff like that. It's like sitting on the edge, like it's a small, like, are they going to do it? Are they going to be able to take it out? And, I think that it was definitely, for me, it like set me in a mindset of like, oh wow, this movie's gonna be fucking crazy. And I really like got excited for the rest of the film after seeing that opening. Now after that, I question the decision to essentially set half that movie on a dead in the water flotilla just going through space getting shot at. Like there's like questionable decisions.
But Nick, we got to hear the shield sound again from the Battle of Naboo.
That's true. We got to hear it quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, the opening scene is unquestionably just like a fucking thrill ride the moment it starts.
What do you think about this take from Travis Mitchell here in the chat? The only flaw is I think the opening should have established Holdo commanding one of the ships so she didn't feel as random later.
I didn't feel that as much because, I mean, like ultimately what happens here is like, people get like, yeah, like you win this fight. I mean, and what comes down from it is like Poe getting shit on. It's like, yeah, you did this, but did you see what we lost?
Yeah, you lost the entire fleet, dick.
So like that, I think that like inserting her into that scene would have muddied that whole purpose. Like the whole purpose of that scene was to show you that like, hey, this guy, as cool as all this shit was, he just got half this fleet fucking killed by himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that if you put Holdo in there, and you try to establish her character while all of that other stuff is happening, it's not like you're going to lose in both fronts. You're not going to get as good of a character introduction as you can get out of Holdo, and you're not going to get as harsh of a criticism as you would of Poe. So I disagree there.
All right. He did remind me now. I left out the Holdo maneuver, and that totally should have been a top moment.
Yeah, like the Holdo maneuver was one of the best.
I don't know how I forgot that. But yeah, we'll just pretend it's on here because that is fantastic. The fact that it has been named now and used in universe, like as a canon name, it makes it even better. And as a little nugget for those of you that like Star Wars lore, in the comics, in between Empire and ROTJ, Holdo and Lando Calrissian were an item. Okay,
nice.
They liked to bump uglies in between missions. I'll just leave it at that. Quite the couple. I mean, she actually came on to him. Like she actually was Mac and Lando.
Like it actually hurts me that character died because because she was so good. She was like Laura Dern was so good in that role.
Oh yeah.
That character was so good in terms of its relation to the Resistance and how she interacted. I mean, more specifically with Poe, because that was kind of her conversational partner through most of that film. Right. Like Poe and Leia were her primary like sounding boards. And like obviously nobody could have known this, like, but knowing that Carrie wasn't going to be around, could you imagine what Tross could have been if you had Holdo there instead of trying to piece together what was left of?
That's a very good point. And like you said, it never would have happened because they weren't anticipating Carrie Fisher dying on a plane from her addiction. But you are right. I mean, if they would have kept Holdo, she could have obviously not filled that mantle that Leia would have filled as the final standing OT character in TROS, but it would have been a lot cleaner than repurposing TFA footage. And, I think they had Billy Lord stand in a few times for like back shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just, JJ kind of had to do what he had to do because there was no real great way to resolve Carrie's passing, but it gets pretty wonky. All right.
Yeah.
So moving on throughout TLJ here, like we said, we are going to give the Holdo maneuver some credit, even though it's not going to have a graphic. But the next one we have here is the betrayal of Snoke and then the ensuing Rey-Kylo team-up. This is another scene, I'm telling you, the first time you saw it, I guarantee you were like, holy shit. I did not see that coming from a mile away. I mean, the whole scene's great. Snoke interrogating Rey the whole time. You think like, Ben, he is a sellout, this piece of shit. Like, he is going to turn her in. And then Snoke delivering the line like he takes the blade, as if he's narrating what Kylo's going to do to Rey, when in reality, Kylo is using the Force to do it to him. Just beautiful shots. Like Sir Dork said in here, the sequels, if anything, the greatest looking cinematography out of all Star Wars. I mean, just the visuals across the three films are ridiculous. Obviously, it's a time and when they were created type of deal, but you still need a director's eye and the DP's eye to kind of cook up these shots. And watching Snoke get taken out, literally lopped in half, Maul style. And then the battle, and if you watch the battle a few times, you can see it's a clusterfuck in terms of stunt guys just waiting for the talent to get their timing better. It is kind of odd that they didn't tighten that crap up. But I'm telling you, each one of you, whether you want to admit it or not, the first time you saw this scene, you were going, wow, we've got another great Star Wars lightsaber fight under our belts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was unquestionably one of the best scenes in TLJ. In fact, for me, it was either this or the Holdo maneuver. That's probably my favorite scene from TLJ. And like you were saying, this is so visually interesting. And it was also the best decision that was made in this movie for Kylo to kill Snoke and essentially take on the mantle of leader of the First Order is the best decision in this film, unquestionably.
No one had that on their TLJ speculation bingo card. Nobody.
No, of course not. I completely disagree with Travis on the. I'm
throwing it up. Well, hey Nick, that's why it's a hot take, right?
And we'll talk about it. I think it's childish, and I know that Star Wars is made for children, and there has to be some childish stuff in it. But I also think that it was just all around a very pointless detour. But anyway, getting back to the
Travis is on fire. We'll come back. This is. During this scene in the theater, my friend audibly said, "Holy fuck, is this the last movie?" Exactly. That's what I mean. It was such a shock.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an awesome moment for the character development of Kylo, and then just like the fight that ensued after. Well, we know that your stunt buddy essentially shit all over it the first time he saw it, but like from an outside perspective and not knowing what goes into stunt coordination and fighting and stuff like that, I watched it and I was like, this looks so cool.
Exactly.
Like when the fire starts to overtake the red cloth in the background, and you then get this view out of the huge window of the Resistance fleet getting fucking pummeled, and the pressure that puts on Rey, and how that gives Kylo the upper hand in their conversation. And like this scene was just so well done in the power dynamics in play and how they shift the moment that Kylo pulls that saber back through Snoke was really well done. It was well, so well done.
I mean, dude, that is some of the beauty of TLJ that I think a lot of people miss, is the dynamic between Kylo and Rey and how that's built upon throughout the film, and kind of comes to this crescendo where each one of them thinks they have the other one figured out, and they're completely wrong. Yeah, like Rey, even in that elevator, she's like, "I know you're not going to give me up. You're going to be a good guy, and you're going to come and help me because your uncle wouldn't." And in his mind, he's like, yeah, you're going to be my bitch and we're going to lead this thing together. And just like my grandfather wanted to do with his son, we're going to get things done. All right.
Yeah.
But as an audience member, you do kind of feel, especially when this moment happens, you do kind of go like, oh shit. Are we actually going to do this? Are we really we're going to take the villain and have him make his turn already? But like you said, once the saber's brought into play and she rejects him, just like Daddy did to Luke, it's like, all right, screw you. I'm going to, chop off your hand and throw you down a shaft.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, this scene was top notch for sure in TLJ.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, we're still sticking with TLJ. Don't you worry. Right here is where we would have talked about the Holdo maneuver, but hey, like I said, we forgot.
Yeah,
but
Holdo maneuver.
It's legit. It is awesome. It not only visually, it's got a little emotion cooked into it because you know what she's doing, but you also get another great Star Wars soundbite. It's up there with the seismic charge when she rips through the fleet. You kind of get that complete science, and then
and I remember
to see ya
in the theaters for that scene. In the theaters, the first time I saw it, and I went opening night. I went midnight, like first screening. They had somebody come through the theater, and they told everybody like there is a moment of complete silence in this film.
Don't be a dick.
It's like it's not a problem. Like the sound didn't cut out or anything like that.
Yeah, people just know. Hey, the movie's broke.
Yeah, it's just like just know that it is intentional. That there is no sound for about 45 seconds in a part of this movie. So just be aware. And like that. The Holdo maneuver was such a good thing because, like you said, it was not only the starkness of that visual from it, but it was the emotion that's packed behind it because, it's everybody's evacuating, everybody's getting out. And Holdo was the one that's like shepherding everybody onto the ships, like, get on. I'm coming, get on. And then when you realize like, oh, she's staying and she's going to sacrifice herself, you're like, oh man, that sucks. And then the way that she does it was so awesome that at that point, it's like, I don't care what you think about Holdo as her character. Like, what, you don't like her purple hair and dress? Like, fine, whatever.
I think that looked saucy as hell.
Yeah, I thought it looked cool. But just like seeing that happen and you're like, this is one of the most badass things that I've seen on screen in a Star Wars film. And this immediately elevates that character to like legendary status.
Yeah, like I said, Nick, Holdo maneuver is canon in universe.
Yeah,
I believe it doesn't. What's his name?
Poe says it later. I think.
Is it Poe or Mary or not? Was it Mary or Pippin? Mary. Who's that guy? Dominic. What's Dominic's last name?
Dominic Monaghan.
There you go.
Yeah. I think it was him. Yeah, I think it was him.
All right. So the real scene here, and I don't know, this one might be controversial, but like I said, when I go back to day one, Matt sitting in his seat, we're on crate. You got the resistance. They're on their last legs. They're racing across the salt flats in those busted ass speeders. First Order rolls out essentially a turbo laser, a portable turbo laser to melt down the door of the cave. And, there's some good stuff in there. Rey shows up in the Falcon. That's kind of cool. But I really reacted emotionally when Finn kind of made the choice, like, you know what, fuck it. This is how I'm going to finally be a hero. This is how I'm going to, I finally get it. I am a good guy. It doesn't matter that I start with the First Order. And when I first got here, I was trying to leave and get away from it just to go find Rey. Through my experience with, Poe and mostly Rose, I have realized like I got a purpose. I can do something good. And he makes that choice to essentially commit suicide. And as Nick, I swear, as he's going in and the music's getting tense and the red starts washing over his face, I'm sitting there going, holy shit, they're gonna kill a main character. I was like, they're gonna do it. This is crazy. I don't know if I want them to do it, but my God, the fact that they have the balls to do this. Yeah. And then, obviously Rose comes in with the big save and you kind of get that stuff. But leading up till Rose's save, I was fully hooked into the moment, fully feeling Finn's sacrifice, kind of cheering it, but also kind of scared. Like, my God, I can't believe they're gonna wipe out one of the new big three already.
Yeah, I mean, it was one, like, I had the same emotional reaction to that, where it was like, holy shit, they're like, he's like, the screen turns red when he gets in the line of the laser. Like, they're gonna fucking kill this guy. Like, this is crazy.
Exactly. I was like, holy
and it
crap.
was, if Ryan did one thing in this movie really well, he really understood dramatic tension and how to build it.
100%.
And like, you know, that's in 3 of the scenes that we've already talked about. Like the opening scene with the bomber and everything like that. The dramatic tension is at a high. The conversation, like when we're in the throne room before, like as Snoke's giving his speech and as we see like that's dramatic tension building perfectly as well. And the same with this, like he does a really good job of being able to build dramatic tension to a point and then like disrupt it in some sort of way. And like this was another example of him like really doing a great job of like building and then dumping on that kind of that tension. So,
I mean, I'm not kidding. Like I'm pretty good at figuring out plots and what may happen in a scene. I know that's a useless talent that's never going to get me anything in life, but hey, I got it. It's one of my talents, right? Hey, my mom said I was a talented little boy. I really, really thought he was done. Like that's how convincing Ryan wrote it and then shot it. I was like, yeah, this is it. Like I can't believe they're going to do this. They're going to take out Finn. And you know, like we said, we get to save, and it's that kind of the steam release. You're like, whew, okay, all right, here we go. We're not done yet, but at least Finn is still alive. All right. Next moment, yep, still from TLJ. It's a big one though. Another one, like if you're on the live stream, that visual of the shot behind Luke as he is facing the First Order is one of the greatest stills from Star Wars. It's an amazing shot. And then the other one I use is another great shot where you got Luke with his blue and then Kylo on the opposite side with his red getting ready to duel. But I think Luke's last stand is a great moment. I'm not completely a huge fan of Luke Skywalker perishing from using the Force too hard to project himself. But the moment and his intentions of doing what he did was spot on Luke Skywalker. Amazing visuals, great acting by Mark and Adam. You know, that Mark's little dust off after Adam has his, more aneurysm. Mm-hmm. And then just the duel where Luke is just sitting there schooling him and teaching him a lesson right to his face and why he is failing and why he is never going to achieve this supreme level of dark side greatness. And, like I said, it kind of sucks that it was a projection. But listen, the first time going into this, we didn't know. We weren't looking at the footprints. We all thought that was him. And when Kylo, makes the stab, you're like, oh, whoa! And then you go, holy shit, Ryan, you just surprised me again. I don't know if I love it that Luke Skywalker died from using the Force too hard, but the idea, the way it was looked, shot, the dialogue, the scene itself, I thought it was all pretty great.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about that. I agree with you that I don't like he got killed because he forced too hard. It's a great moment.
How did you? It's use the Force too hard.
Yeah, and it's like, I try to compartmentalize and stuff like this, but there's just so many scenes from other pieces of Star Wars history and lore that are like, it's like, really? It's like that's what killed him? Because this guy drained a whole planet's life force and he's fine. That took a lot of force. But just speaking on this scene, it's a great moment, partially because it has to be a great moment, and partially because it was filmed really well. Like it was filmed really well. Like these two shots that you have up here are just like super incredible in terms of its cinematographic quality. And I think that if it wasn't for the visual aspect of this, it could have fallen flat. Like if they didn't really nail the cinematography on this scene, this could have fallen flat real bad. Like if you get any notion that he is a hologram before the way that it's revealed in the movie, it's not as good as it was shot. So they did a really good job of like taking what is probably not the best way to kill the main character of Star Wars. Let's be real. Like outside of Anakin Skywalker.
I was gonna say, hey, Daddy's the main character.
Yeah, like you know, you're taking the paragon of the light side of the Force in Star Wars. I'll put it that way.
The sun.
And you
but not
kill
the
him.
Sun.
Yeah, not the sun.
Just the sun.
The sun. Yeah. And you kill him because he forces too hard, which I always thought was weird. And like, would it have been better if he was there in person? I don't know. Like, maybe. Like, I think that there is value to, because if I look at it in terms of Kylo's personal journey, I think that there is value in having him physically kill his uncle and his father, and really seeing how those physical acts weigh on him. Like what happened to Darth Vader when he cuts down Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't disappear because he forced too hard. He got killed of his own volition by his apprentice, and that weighed on Anakin. That weighed on Vader as like all the way through. And I think that there was
he's like,
value.
how the hell did he do that? And where can I learn that trick?
Exactly. And like, I think that there is value in Kylo seeing the physical repercussions of what happens after he kills his uncle, and truly understanding. And this is another miss that I think happened, and we talked about it before. Like truly not having that opportunity to connect the dots that like, I may have killed him, but there is something here that I don't understand. And this angers me even further. And like, we didn't get that because of how Luke died.
Well,
like,
Nick, you could argue, just like Obi-Wan says to Vader, like, you know, you strike me down now, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. He wasn't just talking shit. He was talking fact. He's like, dude, you take away my physical form, guess what? I'm everywhere, anywhere, all the time.
Yeah, it's like, I want you to do this.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you don't understand this right now. I want you to do this.
I guess my point here, I understand the Force projection because it does make Luke to the rest of the galaxy truly seem like this legendary magical person. You know, he just shows up and disappears. He ate turbo lasers for 30 seconds, didn't phase him, dusted it off. But the fact that killed him, like this entire movie was setting up the fact that Jedi or Force users can project their being across the galaxy. Rey and fucking Kylo were doing it the whole film. And they're novices compared to Luke. So what, you're telling me, like, because he had to go, an extra system or two? That it was too taxing?
Yeah.
And Nick, they keep it up in Tross. I mean, they're fighting through the Force in Tross, just like this.
Full-on battles.
Just like this.
So it was an unfulfilling end to the iconic character on the light side of Star Wars. And like, while the scene itself looked really cool, I just think that like, you really missed the purpose of a Jedi death. Yeah. Like
Luke went from maximum force and perished.
Like, yeah. It's like, it almost seems like Ryan just didn't understand. Like,
Son of Chosen One uses too many midichlorians and shorts out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a symptom, like Travis said, like, I like Luke not being there. He did all he could to make sure he wasn't. It's a symptom of the bad storytelling leading up to this moment. That's just how it is. Like, your choice to keep Luke isolated away from all of the people that he cared about for his entire life up until the moment that he died is poor storytelling. And what you got as a result of it was this cool looking ending that ultimately did a disservice to the character of Luke Skywalker and his legacy in Star Wars.
I gotta address this one from Bat, because he's not wrong. Bat's saying, but didn't Palpatine link Rey and Kylo? Yeah, that was established when they wrote The Rise of Skywalker, not in this movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm talking about. There's like some
like, let me rejigger this in the script to make it make sense.
Yeah, I mean, Palpatine, for what we understand and know, wasn't even in any script when the TLJ was being written and shot. I know he wasn't, because we've seen Colin Trevorrow's treatment. Hell, I mean, they had a book of concept art. It was a fully fleshed out movie, and there was no Palpatine. So I know what you're saying, Bat. You're 100% correct. They established that after the fact, though, is kind of my point. All right. I'm just checking out some of the comments here. All right, good stuff, people. You guys are, I'm proud of you all today. This is making me happy. Thank you. All right, so I think that's it for TLJ. That means we get into Shitbagville.
Get into the best one.
Nick, I never thought I could find a movie that would upset me more than the prequels, Revenge of the Sith. But here we are. It's cemented at this point in time. Tross is a dumpster fire, but hey, we're here. We're playing nice. We've got some top moments here, starting with, and listen, like any Star Wars movies, there's always going to be something that stands out to somebody. But I do kind of dig really the opening of Tross, but mostly Kylo and Exegol, and as much as it sucks seeing Ian again in that role and how he just slays it every time. I do dig Kylo's arrival on Exegol in the meeting of Palpatine.
Yeah, I think that, putting aside the decisions made on what the story was and how I disagree with what it went or how it went, I do think that that Ian came in and killed it as usual, and I do think that his portrayal of this version of Palpatine was really well executed. Do I agree with bringing him back? No.
It was all the voices in your head.
Yeah. Especially after seeing how they done it or how they did it. But given the fact that that's how it went and those were the story decisions that were made, I think that Ian did the best job that he could have.
It's not his fault that he returned, his character returned. So they're like, hey, man, we just cooked up some really crazy narrative gymnastic stuff and Palpatine's alive. You want to come back? Okay.
He was like,
the more I think about this, like, if Kylo could get his blade this close, why didn't he just chop his head off?
I mean, it's the same question. When he was, I mean, like this scene,
because we know this is like a broken clone version of the Emperor. He did not have his powers.
Yeah,
he even tells us after the fact. I mean, his fingers are crumbling, and he needs the dyad, or at first just his granddaughter's juice, then the dyad juice. But I mean, there's no way he's still Palpatine.
Yeah, I mean, this scene mirrors the hallway scene when Anakin first finds out that Palpatine is, Palpatine and you're the Sith Lord, when they're circling each other, he's got the fucking blade out and stuff like that. In that moment, like if Anakin makes a move, Palpatine probably can stop him. In this moment, Kylo probably could just chop his head off with no problem. But it's like they're paralleling that scene where it's like, now I understand who my master is. And now I understand like the greater force behind what is going on in this galaxy.
So you kind of see this as a moment in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin finally figures out that homeboy is Darth Sidious, and he kind of has the blade out. I'm like, I'm going to go tell on you, and in 2 seconds I'm going to come back and murder a bunch of kids.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a mirroring of that scene in the fact that it's like,
gotcha. I never thought about it that way. But
like the main character, or the main, like, in Rot's the main character, Anakin finally realizes like this is the villain. This is who is behind everything. And kind of the same thing for Kylo, except not in a villainous fashion. It's him having a true understanding who is the puppet master of of the First Order, which he thought that he was in control of. So it kind of mirrors it in that way.
Right. Yeah. No, I can dig that. Look at you adding like some intelligence to the Rise of Skywalker. I like it. Okay.
Gotta try in some places.
Right. Next moment, somehow Palpatine returned. And hear me out. It's so fucking bad. It's so awful, so memeable, such a joke, that for those negative reasons, it stands out as a top moment. Everyone, even casual fans, will make fun of somehow Palpatine return. So yeah, it's going on this list. I can't help it.
I mean, it is a full encompassment of the thought that was put into bringing Palpatine back in terms of how they decided to do this from a writing standpoint. Like, they didn't put any thought into it. The the tenuous strings that they tried to tie together with his essence went to Exegol, and this was the plan the whole time, and blah blah blah, and how little explanation they actually did in the film. And yeah, I mean, this encompasses that decision in its entirety.
And you can
by saying that he somehow returned. And
you can tell when Oscar has to deliver this line, it hurts him as an artist. I mean, yeah, watch this scene. When Isaacs delivers this line, you can tell it took all of his acting ability to just get it out and not look at the camera and JJ and go, "Are you fucking serious? Like, this is what you want me to say? In this style, this tone? Really? Okay, whatever. You know, I make a handsome salary. I'll do it." Yeah. So yeah, I'm with League, and I've talked about some, like, the Palpatine return it's a cardinal sin. It's disgusting. Not only for what it does to the end of Return of the Jedi and my hero Darth Vader, but it ultimately confirms and kind of puts the stamp on the sequel trilogy as being less than. It's like the stamp of this is. We started high, and then we just kept going down, and then when we got here, we went right into the center of the earth. Like, it just, see you later. Yeah. And you know, we should have seen the signs on the wall, and I think that Matt and I were both trying to cope very, very hard. Hell yeah, dude, a celebration when he comes out. Like, you know, we're like, yeah, Palpatine's back. We're like, yeah, because you're at Celebration. You're kind of on like this Star Wars high for a few days. But then I don't think any of us realized like how stupid that idea really was, and how jacked it was going to make multiple decades of Star Wars. Yeah, and I think that, like, when you just look at everything that happened leading up to TROS, there was no chance that this movie was going to be great. There really wasn't. Like, there was just too much working against it. Like, you had a director and writing team drop out less than 2 years before the movie is supposed to start, like, or is supposed to release, not even start filming. It was supposed to release less than 2 years after Colin and his writing partner dropped out. So not only do you have to hire a new director and writer, they have to have time to rewrite the whole thing to be whatever it is that they want it to be, because there's no direction given from Lucasfilm on what the story is supposed to be. So they have to come in with limited time and resources and rewrite it. And then your star of that movie from the OT is no longer there, and you are forced to use her. Like that. Yeah. I mean, the Leia thing, as we discussed, that ultimately was the big killer of this film, but you still could have made other choices that aren't somehow Palpatine returned. And like, I don't know what the real story is behind this. I know that I read an article, and I think we discussed this at the time that TROS was coming out, or like leading up to it, or maybe right after its release. But like, the decision, from what I can remember, the decision to bring Palpatine back was based off of conversations that JJ had with George. Like, Nick, that's what they tell us, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Like, I don't like. That's what I'm saying is like, if that's the case, then like, that's fucked. You know, like it's fucked from a standpoint of you can see that JJ is struggling in this task because he's essentially asked to rewrite a movie at with very limited time left, and then he's going to the creator of it all and being like, hey man, I really could use your guidance here, I could use your help.
I think George did it on purpose. And
then George essentially shot him in the face.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you want some tips after Bob Iger shredded my treatments for 789? Sure, I'll give you a tip. Somehow Palpatine returned. Take that back. They'll love it. And then when JJ leaves, George is like, you fucking idiot. Gotcha.
If that's really how it went, if that's really how that decision was made,
George has dementia.
Like, I feel so bad for JJ. Like, and like that's the only thing that I can say about this whole film is like, I feel really bad for JJ because his intentions weren't to come into this and make a meme of a movie that people dislike. Like, he was really trying to close this out in a way that like he thought made sense. He talked to the guy who created the whole thing and he was like, please help me. And his help was to bring back the guy that George chose to kill in episode 6. And if that's how it went down, then like, I don't even know what to say. Yeah. Like, it's just sad.
It is wild, man. And there's a reason Tross is my least favorite. If you just think about all of the bad ingredients that went into it, it never had a chance, sadly. And it's a shame, for whatever reason, Colin quit. Who knows if we'll ever figure that real reason. Was he forced out? Was it Kathy? Was it another disagreement on direction? The only thing I really heard that he was really anti Luke getting whacked in the middle. But from the treatments we read from him, he had accepted that, and Luke was a Force ghost, but still heavily involved with both Rey and Kylo.
Yeah. I think that like it was that mixed with Carrie being gone. He was just like,
yeah, because I mean she had major moments too.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Like to the point where I believe she was going to go and confront her son.
Yeah, there was like a face-to-face.
Yeah, like that type of stuff. All right. Well, somehow he returned and he's going to be with us forever now. He lives forever thanks to Tross. Next moment here, kind of emotional. Probably one of the better ways they used Leia, and it's a combination of things. So we're picking up with Rey and Kylo's fight on the down Death Star 2 out there in the Endor system or wherever the hell, I forget the name of the actual planet. But we all know what happens. I mean, eventually Rey defeats him, but it's really because of Leia.
Yeah.
Leia gets in her son's head like right at the last moment. You can see him. Leia's about to pass. And she did do this on purpose. Like Leia she kind of pulled an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can we agree? She's like, listen, I'm gonna be more important for the galaxy right now if I move on into the Force world and my son knows. Because this is the one thing that is gonna snap this dumbass's kind of his goofy thinking about the dark side and having to be his grandfather. This should snap him out of it, and sure enough, it did. So much so that Rey was able to kill him until she brought him back to life. Because if you watch that moment, Nick, when the moment Leia passes, both of them are shook.
Yeah.
But it's too late because she already kind of has the blade in. It's almost like the moment Kylo is taken out, his mom dies, and Rey realizes like, oh shit, I just probably did a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the fight, like this moment in particular was very good because of the Leia connection. But I also just genuinely enjoyed the fight on the Death Star wreckage. I thought that the fight between Kylo and Rey, while it didn't have feelings of, the prequel trilogy, like frantic energy, fast movement type of fighting, I do feel like those two fighting in the fashion that they fought in felt appropriate for their characters. And I think that it was really, it really enhanced the emotional connection between them because they're not fighting like fighting each other because you're a combatant of mine and I have to get through you to get this. They're fighting each other with not only their movements, but with their emotions, because they're both it reminisces, and not like people are going to take this the wrong way, but it is emotionally reminiscent to the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of ROTS, where it's like, I'm not fighting you because you're my enemy. I'm fighting you because I believe that you could be more than what you are, or that like, I'm making right,
and you just need to believe me.
Yeah, it's not a fight about strength. It is a fight about the other trying to win the other over to their side, and that makes this fight interesting in like a very visceral way. It's always cooler to see people fighting who have things invested into it, rather than just like, oh, well, this guy shot 18 people in the face. It's like, yeah, but it was just like what's the deeper meaning there? And like the deeper meaning of this fight I actually thought was really good.
No, you're right, because this fight finally allows them to pay off on what was being set up in TLJ. Like, these two had a true bond. They were working towards a goal of coming together and kind of using their special abilities to do the right thing. Kylo obviously shot that down, because what does Rey say right here when she beats him and then heals him? She's like, I wanted to follow you, but I wanted to follow Ben, not that Kylo dickhead. So it finally kind of paid off on all that setup from TLJ. Like, no, these two are connected in a way that other Force users haven't been. But because of their different goals, they weren't allowed to kind of form that bond until Leia sacrificed herself, Ben returns, and Rey realizes, like, oh, okay, all right, this is who I want.
Yeah, that is essentially the same struggle that happens between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of ROTS. Like, Anakin has fallen so far that he can't see the error of his own ways, and Obi-Wan is there essentially with every swing being like, you're not this person, you're better than this, you know that this is wrong. And like, that is what Rey says to Kylo, like, there is somebody in you that is wholesome and good and worth following, and I would give my life for this person, but what you are right now is not that, and this is why this is why we're fighting.
So I actually want to build on your point, because I do agree with you that the fight itself does kind of mirror Obi-Wan and Anakin, but I would challenge you and say the end, to me, Nick, is closer related to Luke beating his dad on the Death Star.
Yeah,
because Rey, I mean, she fucking kills him, right? I mean, she taps into a little anger, you would think. We know she's a Palpatine. She's all upset about it. Stabs him through the heart. I mean, Luke didn't even take it that far. He just chopped a hand off. But the moment she does that, be it through Leia or herself, she's like, oh shit, like, okay, let me cool down here and just be like, hey man, like, listen, I do want to be with you, but Ben Solo. So it's kind of a marriage of the two greatest and most emotionally impactful lightsaber duels in Star Wars.
Yeah. You popped one thing up on the screen from Ben Rye, says, I enjoyed TROS.
Oh, there you go. It's
for the adventure feeling, but the plot is bad. I totally agree with that, because I was entertained by this movie the first time I saw it. And I was like, man, this was a fun watch. Like, there was immediate issues with the plot the first time you see it too. But in comparison to TLJ, where there were long stretches of that movie where I was like, this kind of feels boring. Like, we're getting a little stagnant here.
Master Code Breaker.
Oh God. I feel like TROS kept a pace, kept it visually interesting. And like, it had much of more of that like adventure action feeling that I enjoyed. So
remember how pissed we were because it had a quick pace and it didn't. Remember, I mean, Nick and I, before it came out, we were lobbying for 3 hours to 325. We were like, it's got to be at least Endgame length. And then we get the runtime. It's like 2 hours and 12 minutes. We're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was another sign where we're like, where we're just like talking ourselves into being like, it's still going to be good. It's still going to be good. It's still going to be good. But like, at that point, we're like, probably not.
And mind you, if you're new here, we essentially knew the whole plot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that didn't help, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. I don't think this movie will ever redeem itself in my eyes. You never know. All right, moving on, and we're kind of sticking close to this scene here. But when not Force Ghost Han, but Vision Han shows up, that's definitely a pointed moment, a standout moment from The Rise of Skywalker. You know, was it Leia helping, like Travis was saying down here in the chat? Who knows? But it was kind of a good full circle for these two, especially for Ben to kind of hear from his dad, like, "Hey, man, it's all right. It's all right."
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Leia made this happen, because I really do think that by saying that Leia did this as well as the other stuff that already happened,
I think Ben cooked it up in his head.
Yeah, I think that you're taking agency away from Ben, and you're not giving him enough credit to what he's capable of doing and like what he needed in that moment. You know, like what he needed in that moment more than anything after the death of his mother, and essentially the death of the person that he was trying to build himself up to be for years, decades, or longer than a decade, is like he needed that connection with his father. He needed that moment. And this could be something that he was able to manifest himself, whether it be through, like you're saying, like through a vision that he is able to make manifest into a visual representation of his father, or if it really is just him like really reaching into the Force and being able to extract his father's essence just for a short conversation with him. Like, I don't think that was Leia. I think that was Ben making true to himself what he needed in that moment.
Yeah, and, I'm kind of with you. Just don't ask Harrison Ford what he was in this scene, because he does not respond kindly to it.
Yeah,
I think was it on Kimmel or Fallon? There's a clip of this, or there's some show. They're like, "Hey, Harrison, were you a Force ghost?" Or he's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" He just starts going nuts. Like, shut the hell up, you losers.
He's like, I don't want to talk about this. He's like, I didn't even want to do this scene. I just did it, you know, like. And,
I also love the Conan bit where the dude rolls out with the big Lego Millennium Falcon, and then Harrison just throws. He just like oops and drops it. It's like, yeah, buddy.
You could really see at the end of this trilogy how done he was with Star Wars.
Yeah, this isn't Indiana Jones to him. Indiana Jones, he'll do if they'll let him in a wheelchair. But
yeah,
Star Wars, he was done in 1977.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, kill me now, please.
Never want this dude to make it to Empire Strikes Back. All right. Moving along here. I know a lot of people like this moment. I know my buddy loves it. But the arrival of the Resistance fleet on Exegol, led by Lando himself. You know, it is a moment. It definitely pops. It gets the emotions going. I mostly credit the emotions to Mr. Williams, you know, kind of because it kicks in with the, you know, like that, you know, the rally cry, the Star Wars rally.
Yeah.
You know, visually it looks awesome. The heroes are down. They all show up. Lando's leading it. You got Wedge in there, Chewie in there. You can see the ghost floating back there. So is that Hera? Is it Jason? You get to play those types of games. But yeah, it's definitely a moment. If you're asked, hey, what stands out from The Rise of Skywalker? Most fans are probably going to bring this up.
Yeah, this is my favorite moment for sure. I mean, like I said, I think in the last podcast, like just these types of moments get me all the time. Like it got me in Endgame, it got me in this movie. Like it's just when the chips are down and everything looks bad, when the friend squad shows up to save the day, it just feels good. And I do think that, like, you know, cueing that Williams score, having Lando be the one leading the charge, and also seeing Wedge, seeing Zuri, seeing a lot of these other characters pop up and show their face in this moment, I think was really cool. And like, you know, this is also the same type of moment as you know, the Helm's Deep moment from Two Towers. You know, when Gandalf shows up with Éomer and the Rohirrim.
Oh yeah.
And runs down the hill and clears out all.
What's the line Gandalf tells Aragorn though before he leaves? Like, look to the
east
on the second day or something like that.
Yeah, second or third day. Look to the east that the sun's rising.
Right, and there he is.
And then Aragorn looks through that window. The shadows come up. You get Gandalf there, and then Éomer comes in, and then woo, to the king. Boom. I mean, it was.
God damn, I'm getting chills, man. Look at that.
I know. It's just like remembering that scene is such a incredible.
Thank
thing.
God for Peter Jackson and those movies during the early 2000s, because they really helped to fill my nerd time when Star Wars wasn't jiving. I mean, I'll never forget 2001 through whenever the trilogy came out. Got me. I never read the books before. I mean, The Hobbit, sure. Never read Lord of the Rings, and then I was hooked. And Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. The appendices. I mean, that's all I did. That's probably why I graduated Ohio State with a 283, because instead of paying attention, I was in the back of the room reading, believe it or not, reading words and shit. Not even on a device, because we didn't have them back then. That's how old I am. But just reading the good old books. But yeah, there is something about the hero cavalry charge that kind of just gets people amped up.
Oh yeah. All
right, and the final top scene or moment from the sequel trilogy, coming from The Rise of Skywalker. I am all the Jedi. All right, hear me out. This honestly could have been probably the most iconic scene in all of Star Wars if they were just a bit more creative and actually used the Jedi speaking as their, ethereal forms there with her. Like, I do think that would have been fucking banger. You got Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Kanan. I mean, you name it. They're all sitting there with their hands on her shoulders or something like that. Like, come on.
Just you describing it's still just like, it would have been
there's
good.
A fan edit. Just go look it up. I mean, that's pretty much what I would take. It's fantastic. But, it's not there. I still think it's a great moment. I love the character of Rey. I always will. I don't care what all you misogynist, incel, basement dwellers think about her and Mary Sue this, Mary Sue that. Luke Skywalker's a fucking Bobby Sue. Let's be real. I mean, give me a break. He didn't receive training. Rey didn't receive training. It happens. When people got the Force juice, guess what? They're going to be pretty impressive. But I just love this moment. It kind of pays off on what she's trying to do in the opening shot of her training in the Force in the movie. Trying to reach out to everyone. Really, to me, it's like she's been trying so hard to connect with her kind, the Jedi, the light side Force users. Nothing. Luke's dead. Leia's like a half. She's not even fully in it. She's trying to reach out to these people. And it's not until the chips are down, Ben's seemingly dead, she's been nuked, that she finally makes the connection. And they're like, listen, Rey, we've been with you the whole damn time. You can do this, girl. Get up. We got you. We're with you. You are all of us now. You are the last, but you won't be the last because of us. And then, she's starting with the Skywalker family blade, handling it. And then, or she start with Leia's. I can't remember.
I think she starts with Leia's because
and then swings the other one around. So there you've got Leia and Luke's lightsabers in the hand of Rey to help her defeat their nemesis and now her nemesis. It's good shit. And she does it. Unlike Anakin Skywalker, who just throws people down reactor shafts, she ensured to melt the dude's body to nothing.
Essence, everything.
And then blows up all the fucking acolytes hanging out there too.
Yeah. I think that of all of the mistakes that led up to this moment in terms of the storytelling and everything else, if you can just compartmentalize this scene and just watch this scene for this scene, it's really good. Yeah. It's not as good as it could have been because, like you were mentioning, having that visual representation of all of these Force users behind her would have been such a good juxtaposition versus Palpatine and all of the followers that he has behind him. Really visually sending that home would have made it even better, but like still for what it is, like this scene is really killer. Like
I mean, she sacrifices her. I mean, she dies.
Yeah. I
Like-
mean, it's what I don't think that I would have done anything different if I was in JJ's position and had everything that I had leading up to this moment. I probably would have done it the same way, just sprinkle in those Force ghosts.
Yeah. I mean, it's good stuff, and it's not their fault that this movie is what it is, but it was a pretty good kill shot, if anything.
Yeah.
Let me address this from bat. Nobody mentioned Luke raising the X-wing. Listen, that segment on Acta or whatever, I think is just so out of place. I mean, Rey sitting there having a hissy fit, like throwing shit, like like destroying the TIE fighter, like, oh, I'm gonna be like Luke and camp out here now, wah. And then she throws the lightsaber and he catches it, and now all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, that's disrespectful shit. I mean, it's clearly just so petty. Luke Skywalker is a completely different character in The Rise of Skywalker. He's all jovial and happy now that he's fucking dead, and it's stupid. And yes, as a fan and knowing what Luke saw in Dagobah with Yoda, it should be a great kind of circle moment, but because that scene is so janky and just doesn't feel authentic, I couldn't do it, Bat.
Yeah, it was an apology scene
100%
that JJ tried to do, but it was like, was it really worth it? Like, I just don't know what the idea was. Like, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish with it. Like, obviously what he's trying to do is like use Luke as a way to tell Rey, like, what I did was a mistake. You know, like in like people make mistakes and people should have the opportunity to atone for their mistakes. But like it felt like more of an apology to the audience than it did an apology to Rey.
Right.
And
it's just weird. Like, I mean, Mark was a completely different version of Luke and Tross.
Yeah. And I mean,
and that, listen, people are like, oh, he learned the lesson from Yoda. No, he didn't learn that lesson from Yoda. He learned like, hey, our order and the books and shit, that's why we sucked. We got to let our students kind of show us what's up. You know, let's let this go. It's no big deal. He didn't say, hey man, lightsabers are cool. Don't treat them like shit and start acting like a happy-go-lucky character. When was Luke Skywalker ever like slappy? Like never. Like, whatever. Okay. We're getting short on time, so I'm not going to keep spinning my tongue on this crap. But hey, there you go. Now, real quick, before we get into the fan segment, we're going to rip through Matt and Nick's top 5 just to see where we kind of landed on our own, starting with young Nick here. Here's Nick's tops. We're going to just rattle through them here. Coming in at number 5, Nick went with the Snoke betrayal on his ship in the throne room from TLJ.
Yep.
Number 4, Nick is going with the arrival of the Resistance fleet at Exegol. Mm-hmm. Number 3, something Han talks to Ben in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, indeed.
Number 2, Han's death at the hands of his son from TFA. And then number 1,
Rey pulling the saber.
All right. Good picks there, Nick. Here comes my top 5. Obviously, this is going to be the right top 5. Mm-hmm. Number 5, I have Luke's last stand on Crate. Number 4, I have Rey and Finn's Jakku escape. Number 3, Snoke's death in TLJ. So just like young Nick. Number 2, Han's death from TFA, just like young Nick. And number 1, it's undeniable. It's up there, probably top 5 most emotional kick-ass Star Wars moments. But Rey pulling the Skywalker family blade to herself in the snowy forest of Ilum.
That's right.
All right, so that concludes our top Star Wars live action moments. If you've missed the other eras, make sure to hit up youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. Just check out our live playlist and you will find them there. Fear not, we'll be back next week with a special topic. Just got to look at the calendar, but I think we might start potentially producing some Bad Batch Season 3 type of stuff. Not sure yet. We've got plenty on the list, thanks to the fans, thanks to my head, stuff like that. But I've been digging these, and we're going to keep them up for now because it's not like there's a ton of news coming out. And I honestly don't expect much more news until after Bad Batch coming into May. I think May, we're really going to start getting a clearer picture of what 2024 is going to look like in terms of new Star Wars content.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. So.
All right, friends, it's that part of the time of the Star Wars Time Show to focus on our fans. We love you all, even though you don't love us as much, and the algo hates our guts. But we are committed to it because we do appreciate those that take the time to sit around and play with us on whatever night we choose to speak the SWTS gospel. So first up, we always do our question of the week. And I screwed up, and Nick screwed up because we were supposed to do the questions to us during Pop Culture Talk, but we did not. So we will tackle those now. But the way we do this, StarWarsTime.show over on Instagram. I'm trying to post the prompt. It seems if I get it up at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays, it gets some traction. So let me get some screens switched up, and Nick will be... Well, actually, we're going to ask the questions of ourselves first. So
yeah,
here we go. Let me get them pulled up. I think the first one was from Rippick Tan here. All right. Our buddy Rippick __ Tan is asking, favorite vehicle from each trilogy, size does not matter.
Okay. I'll go first.
All right.
So prequel trilogy, my favorite craft was probably the Jedi Starfighters because they were just so nimble. It was really cool to see those in action, especially in the beginning of ROTS. I just thought that those were like super fun crafts that were like really agile and gave Jedi an opportunity to like bring their skills to the air in a way that you didn't have in the other trilogies. So I thought that one was cool. I really liked the
Ben.
Jedi
We love you,
Starfighters.
buddy.
In the original trilogy, it's the AT-AT for sure, because that was the first vehicle that I saw that was like really just like overwhelmed you with its size.
You're nailing some good ones. Fuck.
And like I know that there are bigger vehicles in the original trilogy than the AT-AT, but it was like the first time that you're on Hoth and those things come into view and you're like you're overwhelmed with the size of it, and it was truly like one of those things that was like hard to wrap your mind around, like how big it was. And that really gave you that David versus Goliath feel of the Empire versus the Rebellion. And then in the sequel trilogy, I'm trying to think. I mean, like, I think the obvious answer for that one is Kylo's like modified TIE Interceptor.
His Interceptor, yeah.
Yeah, like that one just had this sick look to it that was like so indicative of that character and really fit Kylo in what he was aiming to become so well, and also like in a way built off of the design of Vader's craft from the original trilogy. So that to me was probably my favorite from prequel or sequel.
Solid. I don't want to repeat too many. I mean, I definitely would have taken Anakin's ETA-2, 100%. So I'll go with the Naboo N1.
Yeah, that was my other one.
Okay, so since Nick did that one, I'll pick the N1. Original trilogy, I wouldn't even think in ground vehicles, but Nick is 100% correct. It is the AT-AT. That's the right answer, but since he picked it, I'll kind of go with one that many people probably aren't even considering, but I'm going to go with the Imperial Lambda class shuttles, the shuttle Tidarium. I've always loved them. That opening in Return of the Jedi where it drops out of the belly and the wings fold out and you hear that and you know Vader's on it. I don't know. They're just I've always loved the angular look of the Empire. And damn, the sequel trilogy's tough. You're right. The Interceptor is really the only one that stands out because everything else looks so Imperial-like.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to say Snoke's flagship, but it's just a big freaking triangle. So I'm trying to like pull on something that stands out. So I guess I'll be a smartass and say Ochi of Bastoon's ship.
Gotta pull something.
I mean, okay.
That was
I'll go. How about Poe's Black X-Wing?
Like the Black X-Wing was like my other thought as well.
His orange one's
like
cool too, but the black one was first.
Yeah, so I think that's a good answer as well.
Good stuff there, Rippick. I do like these. I wish we could have. I look, Nick. I mean, IG these days in terms of stories, I think maybe 30 people see our stories in a 24-hour period, which is odd, but oh well. We also got one from our friend League of Extraordinary Sixers. Looks like this one is just for me. What field of professorship are you in, Professor Matt? I kind of like. I'm gonna say I'm in the field of professorshipping. I dig it. Computer science, and it's a joke, but yeah, I'm a computer science professor, and I don't really program. Just don't tell anybody. Okay. All right. Thank you. So those we should be doing those at the start of the show, but because we're both dumb and have holes in our brain, we forgot. So now 100%. We're truly getting into the fan question of the week. As Nick said, we always try to theme it to a topic we are riffing on for a particular show. So we asked our fans or whoever could see them, what's your favorite moment from the sequels? And, you know, we got a fair amount of responses.
Yeah, we did. We got a ton of responses. I was surprised to see that. Let's see how much hate and vitriol are in these.
Let's do it.
First comment comes from @sir.dork, our good friend Jared, one of the best toy photographers in the land. He says, I still don't think I've had a bigger oh shit moment than when, and I'm going to preface this by saying, this is when Jared's keyboard stopped working.
I love it. Read it as written. That's part of the rules. I will, yeah.
A bigger oh shit moment than when Kylon sliced Smoke in half. Kylon sliced is one word.
Well, yeah, so you just read it as there's a character known as Kylon sliced, and then there's also someone known as Smoke in half.
Yeah, so I still don't think I've had a bigger oh shit moment than when Kylon sliced Smoke in half. And totally surprised, he said. So thank you, Jared. Of course, we have to poke fun at you. So good stuff there. Next up, Pixel Rope says, there are a few moments in TLJ that really stood out despite the divisive nature of the film. The Ren Praetorian duel is just outstanding. The moment with Luke and Yoda and the Luke and Kylo duel are genuinely great. So, likes all those. 2797 Studios. Good buddy Bat says, I've got to go with Luke's last stand against Kylo. Yes, something from TLJ.
Woo woo.
It gave us the Luke we all were wanting. We were all wanting. Daddy Saber and all. We got peak aggression or peak aggro Kylo, and it was visually stunning. There's always been a father complex in Star Wars, and this was definitely the crescendo of it all.
Quick tangent. Look up the Thanksgiving meme with Kylo yelling more. It is a gem.
Next up, Johnny Osage. He says, my most favorite moments of all three sequels were the special effects. Huge jump from the OT and prequels. My favorite came from the worst character, Admiral Holdo, with her kamikaze lightspeed into the First Order flagship. So he's not a huge Holdo fan. I know
he didn't like that segment, huh? Johnny didn't like what we had to say.
I saw Johnny.
I know he was in here. That's probably why he left. All the too much Holdo love. Sorry, Johnny.
Indeed. All right. Next up, my father Django says the Falcon chase through Jakku. Yeah, we brought that up. Incredible stuff there. League. Look at
League. She's going tones on us, man.
Yeah, so she's giving us a full dissertation. TFA. First, let's talk about John Williams returning to Star Wars as the composer. He created one of the best new themes in The Force Awakens. The nostalgia of seeing the original crew again from the original trilogy back together again, and the introduction of the new characters to usher in usher in a new era of Star Wars. The duel between Kylo, Finn, and Rey was dope. TLJ. Personally, I think this is the best of the trilogy. Crotchety Luke Skywalker was the epitome of someone who is tired of all the BS. Favorite scenes: Snoke throne room duel, the Holdo maneuver.
Boom.
The simplistic nature of that scene, watching the ship silently crash into the other ship was stunning filmmaking there. The Luke, the master, teaching his apprentice Kylo one more lesson before giving himself to the Force. And then Tross, while this film is the worst of the trilogy, it did have moments. For some reason, I really loved.
Oh, that's
Rey
a fantastic shot.
Yeah, over Kylo's ship. That was a sick shot. The introduction of a Force dyad was something I wish was more realized than it was in the film.
Yep.
The duel on the ocean was visually stunning, seeing Leia one more time. So, League giving us all of her thoughts there. Rippick Tan says, the garbage will do. When they're talking about the Falcon and TFA. Finn rocking the Skywalker blade, TFA as well. Rey and Finn escaping Jakku on the Falcon, TFA as well. Luke and Yoda.
Okay.
That's the TLJ. Force Skyping, which is, again, TLJ and Tross combined. Babu Frick. Babu Frick, we did leave out, but he was a fan favorite from Tross.
My friend.
And then John Williams' new scores. So there we go. Press pause photography. Connor, our good friend Connor, says it's got to go to Luke's scene with Yoda. The lesson of failure, along with the visuals and the music, is what I wanted from the sequels. Luke felt like Luke in that scene, headstrong but stubborn. I think headstrong and stubborn are the same thing. So just like that boy we met on Tatooine. And Yoda is wise, having grown beyond his failure as the Grand Master of the prequel era. It's a great full circle moment for the character as he's able to show Luke that failure can be a part of the lesson.
And no one's failed worse than Yoda, that's for damn sure.
It's very true. Take More Toy Photo says Holdo maneuver. Love that it has a name. Quick Picks Toys says, I think I cried when I saw back Luke at the end of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
But many other nice moments, and apologies to those who hated The Last Jedi, but I really like the approach of Luke S. retired like Yoda. So he likes Luke in TLJ. Black Series Natural Light says saber duel between Rey and Kylo in front of Snoke. That was throne room scene. Tyrannus Figs 1120 says Kylo freezing the blaster bolt. That actually was really cool.
I mean, I ended up bringing it up anyway, so agreed.
Yeah, so that was pretty sick. Toy at Heart
best answer yet.
When Rey first wields her lightsaber. Now, I don't know if he means her lightsaber as in the one that she ignites at the end of Tross.
Ooh, because you see the kind of the blue-green becomes yellow.
Yeah. So I don't know if he means that or when Rey pulls the
good
Skywalker
pickup there, Nick.
blade.
Good pickup.
But both cool moments. Star Wars 4 Life says the simultaneous actions of all taking place at once. Rey and Kylo fighting alongside against the Praetorian Guards, then conflicting when it comes to the right path to take. Finn and Rose about to be executed. Then a timely disaster strikes and BB-8 mans an ATST. All this while Holdo sacrifices her life to keep the Resistance alive, jumping into light speed through the Supremacy. The score during this whole sequence is incredible. So all of the interconnected points during the throne room fight between Kylo and Rey. So good stuff there. Alejandro 2777 says easy, the credits, but from which film?
I guess them all.
Yeah, Ted Simons says the same things when the credits rolled. And then Mando Pirate says the Rey and Kylo duel in TFA. So,
all right. Good job, team.
Thank you to everybody who responded to that one. I'm surprised that we got as many positive responses as we did.
That's why I ran them all. I mean, we typically pick and choose, but I was like, hey, you know what? This is a this is surprising to me. So let's show that, hey, Star Wars fans can be positive about the sequels.
Indeed, they can. So good stuff there. Thank you all for replying to the question of the week. Now we're going to move into our top 5 Star Wars fan hours features of the week. To get involved in this segment, make sure you tag at Star Wars Time Show on all of your Star Wars art posts on the Instagram. That's how I find you when I pick the top 5 every Monday. So make sure to do that. Tag at Star Wars Time Show, and then also use the hashtag Star Wars Time Show on those posts. So to kick off the top 5 for this week, we have Peruvian Padawan, and he gives us some awesome shots of Paz Vizsla here, Heavy Mando from the Mandalorian TV series, and it's just Paz doing his thing. You know, he's got his big ass Gatling gun, machine gun, and he's just letting it loose. And then the next shot over there is an awesome wrist flamethrower shot as well. So
it's like he's cleaning those mountains where they're all holed up in season 3, right? He's like, hey, he's like, I'm gonna spray down those flying bastards that are taking all our kids away.
Yeah, he's blasting away at the rock to create the opening to the cave. You know, it was a cool scene.
That's a badass fire effect, though. I'll give you that.
The fire looks. I mean, the fire probably is real, but the way that he got it to look so good.
No, it's good. Good edit there for sure.
Really sick stuff from Peruvian Padawan on Instagram. Next up, Collectibles Nat, and who were we just talking about?
There she is,
Rey Skywalker, whatever you want to call her.
In her white form.
Yes. So this is an awesome shot of Scav Rey with her old her stick. Well, actually, this isn't Scav Rey. This is like the Rey from Tross.
This is full on Jedi Knight Rey, if you want to call it. I would assume she's a Jedi Knight at this point in time.
Yeah, it's Tross Rey carrying her old. Her old, what is it? Not quite like, I don't know if they actually gave her staff,
her bow staff. Her original beater that she was beating people with on Jakku.
Yeah, but it's just a great shot of her standing on a couple of rocks, probably on Tatooine or somewhere around there, maybe on Jakku, with a nice little sunlit background there. It's just a really good shot of Tross Rey.
I wish I got this Rey in Hot Toys. There's 3 Reys I did not get in Hot Toys: Scav, Island Journey, and this one. I have Jedi Training Rey from TLJ, believe it or not, but not these guys. All right, good work there from Collectibles. And that got to be from Pittsburgh, I'm telling you. And that downtown, bomb dot.
Next up, he gets love all over this show.
I know this guy's getting more airtime. What the hell's going on with us?
Press Pause Photography. Connor, our good friend from Beyond the Dune Sea, makes our top 5 as well this week with an awesome, different throne room shot than what we've talked about before. This is throne room shot from ROTJ, the original throne room scene, where we see Luke and his father, Darth Vader, with crossed blades. And in the background, you see the delighted face of Palpatine as the 2 Skywalkers fight to see who will ultimately become his apprentice in his mind. But it's just a sick shot. I mean, the face on that Luke figure is insane.
Awesome, like it's damn good. There's no, I mean, this guy produces good content for a reason. Like, I mean, it's just something he's good at. I mean, like I said, the reels over there, I love them, and I usually will not watch anyone else's Star Wars content but these guys. And it's because Press Pauses is just, he's an artiste. That Luke, Nick, is the Mandalorian hot toy Luke, at least the head sculpt.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen on any figure. Like, that's really crazy.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I mean, it's a fantastic shot. I mean, even the lightsaber effects are some of the best. I mean, they just pop.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like getting a red lightsaber is probably the hardest effect, at least for me, because red, a lot of times, if you don't have a dark background, will wash out. So getting it to pop like that, I mean, the green looks sexy too. Anyways, that's our boy Press_Pause_Photography, and for some reason, one more underscore.
That's right. He loves those underscores. All right, next up, Umbra Toy Photography, Umbra Toy Photos. Like, this one's just sick because it's like, I guess you could call it a mashup, but it's
well,
really not.
Honestly, Nick, from a Vader comic, he is on a horse mount. So
Okay.
it's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
So what we're seeing then here is, comic inspired Vader on the back of an all black stallion.
It's great.
That is like
it's reared up.
So the
horse is reared up. The front legs are up.
And Vader's got like this pose, like this old school, like 1800s
Hi-ho,
general.
Silver.
Yeah, he's got his saber ignited. One hand on the reins, kind of leaning back. His cape is flowing.
Cavalry charge time.
It's sick, man. It's sick. The background of this is awesome too. Kind of like this sun speckled, like cloud background. I mean, this one, I saw this, I was like, this is just so fucking cool. Like, of course this makes the top 5.
Yeah, no. Umbra Toy Photos is a talent. Definitely an account you should be following and looking out for. They do like very dynamic scene builds, and then sometimes you'll get these kick-ass portraits type of shots.
Yeah, so good stuff there at Umbra Toy Photos on the Instagram. The last one is a click to open because the embed did not work.
Well, hold on, Nick. I pre-planned, and I actually have a bonus shot after this one, but I did have Panda ready for you.
There we go. So yes, this one is _panda.photo on the Instagram. They're giving us an awesome full armored Wrecker shot. Obviously, we got the Bad Batch coming up soon, so seeing our good boy Rekka in his full armor, just like he's holding a modified B1 battle droid, clearly has cut that thing down, and you can see him just in the middle of a firefight standing there full on firing back as Wrecker does. So just a sick shot of Wrecker in his full armor.
Yeah, dig it. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Bad Batch. I'm actually waiting for my Hot Toys Wrecker to show up, so looking good there, Panda. I think these are not... Yeah, these are the Hot Toys, so good looking shot of the big meathead. All right, like I said, before you shut us down, just a quick honorable mention. The only reason I'm doing this, Nick, is because like myself, this person doesn't post a lot anymore, so when they post, it's kind of a big deal. We're talking about our old friend, former guest host of the SWTS, Mr. Jason Young at Work More or Less. He's got a great Kenobi wreck shot with custom heads from Fett Clone. They just look saucy.
Awesome. I mean, like Jason is one of those master craftsmen in the toy photography space, and whenever he puts out anything, it's of top quality, and this shot is no different. Like the guy really understands everything about this craft.
Yeah, just a little bit. But also to highlight at Fett.Clone's sculpt work. I mean, this guy, I'm sure you've heard about him from Press Pause. I think when he was on the show, he was talking about him. Fett Clone can take your $20, $25 Black Series figures, and with his head sculpts, make them look like miniature Hot Toys. So, and this image captures it. All right, Nick, go ahead. Take us home.
That's it. That's the end of the top 5 with the great honorable mention of Work More or Less. That's the end of our show for this week. So Matt, go ahead and close us out.
You got it. Fun time as always, my friend. Hopefully those of you in the Peanut Gallery enjoyed yourselves. Drop in the chat. I appreciate you all being active and just taking time out of your Tuesday nights to come hang with young Nick and I. It's always more fun when we have an active audience. So kudos to you all, fandos. You earned your episode this week. And by earn, I mean, we're going to start making you guys pay for this shit. Because it seems like the more you make people pay for content, the more people watch it. It makes no sense to me. But that's just the younger generations in general. So I'm finally going to start looking into the YouTube channel memberships. I saw Beyond the Dune Sea using them. And there is some cool little things you can do there with, little emojis that are exclusive to members or icons that only members can use in live chat. So we'll be looking at that. Just keep your eyes peeled. Who knows when that'll happen? I know I just said it now, so it'll probably happen this time next year. But it's a plan. So in between now and then, all we need you to do is keep going out there stumping from your good old buddies at the SWTS. Just let people know we do a weekly show. We drop a podcast version, a live stream version. Plus, we clip the living hell out of it thanks to our new AI employee, Opus. So keep an eye out on your Reels, your TikToks, your YouTube Shorts. We try to put out at least one video a day, if not 2. I'm trying to spruce them up a little bit, so I would love some feedback. I'm getting inspiration from Connor's work. I'm trying to make our clips of the show a little more stylized. You know, when we're talking about something, I might add a clip or at least an image. So check them out. Give us some feedback. Like them. Share them. That's the important step. I'm being serious, people. I know you're probably not seeing a lot of our content after our account got whacked and we're trying to rebuild. But on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, try to go out of your way at least once or twice a week and just see what the old dudes are putting up there on SWTS. And if it's something that looks cool, simple share. All right? If I can do it for Beyond the Dune Sea, which is essentially a Jesus-like move on my part, the rest of you can do it for us a few times a week. I'm not saying every day, just a few days. All right, people, there's always time for Star Wars Time. Never forget it. And we really don't want you to forget that if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you always.